And now, holy shit, folks.
I always remind people, I am suspended for life for minor hockey.
It's my duty to please the booty.
Did you catch a rattlesnake and then drive home with it in your car holding it the whole time?
Yep.
Phil only drinks Coke. He doesn't drink water. I'll fucking quit.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Spittin Chiclets. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 409 of Spittin Chiclets, presented by Pink Whitney from our friends at New Amsterdam Vodka here in the Barstool Sports podcast family. Gang, the NHL is back this week. The boys hit the road next week. We can't wait to get back out there with our listeners. But first, we got to say hello to the fellas once again across the pond to Matty Merles in Sweden. When you heading over this way, my man?
Looking at Tuesday or Wednesday, I'll start my trek over there. I'm hoping for an easier trip than it was to Buffalo, and I'm real excited to get over to Pittsburgh.
Gonna be coming over hot as a pistol still, or what? You're gonna be carrying that Euro streak or what?
Yeah, it was a great week. 2-0 with boots on the ground up in Timrah. Both games were decided in the last minute too, so had a lot of fun. And this week is all taking care of the kid, laundry, taking care of the wife, getting ready for that week-long trip with the boys.
Gentle.
Don't forget to take care of yourself too, Mur.
Mur. So the one thing I did notice from Boots on the Ground game was their little pre-game ceremony before puck drop. Explain it to the fans. And you ended up hitting the over and the win on that game, although they were doing everything in their power to blow it with all the penalties that they were taking.
Oh, yeah. They did that when I played here. This little trucking company pays the sponsorship to drive the truck out to the referee, and I've seen guys run into it when they're skating because the lights are off and the spotlight's going. They're introducing us at the other end, so the other team's not paying attention. But that was a fun little thing. But yeah, both games were unbelievable. I tried to get down to the locker room. I tried to use my pass credential to get in and get the interview with the OT winner the one night, but I missed him. He was out of the room before I could even get down there. That's how quick this guy moves.
Was that LaLegio?
Yeah, Joey LaLegio.
Yeah, so I bet the game when I saw Mur's been on fire, and then I had no idea who was on the roster or anything, but I see the game winner. I'm like, oh my God, it was Nugent Hopkins' best friend. I don't know where they played together, but he always used to talk about him. I think the kid played at Denver. Little fast, absolute like little water bug out there, offensive D-man. So sure enough, it all came together. My 6 minutes, I knew Nugent Hopkins, his best buddy, won me a couple G's, and the Merman, obviously.
Ooh.
Imagine skating around pregame and then going ass over tea kettle because you hit the little motorized truck on the ice. You're going.
I actually wouldn't have minded because I would have had an excuse. I hit the truck. I was falling on my own.
You would have, regardless of injury, you would have pulled shoot.
But that truck. Fuck.
Yeah, my ankle, my foot.
Also, quick shout out till we get around to everyone else. Merles, I think it's 3 a.m. right now as we start in Sweden. The guy's up, the guy's bad. And I said, did you take a nap? Nope, obviously couldn't go to sleep. So we appreciate it, Merles. It's great having you on. And I know 3 a.m. is no joke.
2:08 a.m., but you were close.
That's standard.
Thanks, Merles. Let's go all the way across the pond again, and then out to almost the West Coast. Mikey Granelli, where are you? That's not your apartment in New Jersey. That's
Jeff
like
Dahmer's apartment. Connor McDusty Dahmer.
Yeah, I'm here in Vegas for the NACS trade show, spreading the gospel of Big Deal Brewing. And I'm meeting with tons of different convenience stores from all over North America with the hopes that they'll pick up Big Deal Brewing. So shout out to the entire Fifth Coast sales team that's here moving the product for us. My guy, Matt Goldman, has been slinging deals for us left and right. I also got to see the Big Deal Brewing cans in person for the first time.
How fucking gorgeous are those?
There we go.
There
it is.
There we go.
Good.
There we go.
What's with the room though?
I don't know. I am in like a fully red room. It has a red couch, red walls. It's like a red velvet couch. So it's very Vegas. And on top of that, I've been getting crushed on the blackjack tables. So it's a very Vegas trip for me.
I would have loved to have seen you like weaseling deals for free jewels from different convenience store owners by Yeah, we'll give you a couple free, no big deal brewing, and you're going to send me over some tobacco products.
You don't smoke, Jules.
This is a trade show. So they had every single thing that's in a convenience store. Each company has a booth.
Okay.
So I spent an hour just buzzing around, grabbing some Skittles, grabbing some Nerds, huge Reese guy. So I had some of those as well. And then the food, unbelievable. Gas station food.
Grab me some rib domers while you're there.
I will.
37 years, you're going to start wearing them, huh?
Yeah. You asshole.
Next up, Paul Biznasty Bissonette. You're always traveling a lot lately. Where are you today? That's a new background for the fellas.
My new apartment in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Ooh.
A bit of difficulties with the thermostat though. So it's currently 86 degrees in my apartment.
Oh my God.
I'm probably going to be tarps off in about 6 minutes. If I passed out during these preseason predictions on who we see going to playoffs, breaking teams down, at least you got Merles, right? He can replace me. That's why we brought in the extra gun for the breakdowns. But very, very eventful week. I was in Victoria. Said goodbye to all my friends there. I went over to a wedding dinner, missed the wedding. So the wedding dinner was on Thursday. Got to say bye to all my Vancouver friends. Ended up staying with a friend, my friend Jackie the Alien in North Vancouver. And sure as shit, the one afternoon, I'm just driving right by our place, bear. 1,000-pound. It wasn't a grizzly. I would assume it's a black bear. I sent you guys the video. It was black. Just roaming around, going up to doors around the neighborhood. Everybody obviously out in their cars after that, just sneak a peek. So that was pretty cool. That was the first close-up encounter I've ever had with a bear. And then made the trek. I drove to Arizona from Vancouver to Arizona in less than 48 hours. I did a 16-hour shift in the car on Saturday. So that
How
was
many
pretty,
stops on that 16 hours?
Just a lot of pulling over and hosing. I stopped at Whole Foods, grabbed a bunch of whole paychecks, grabbed a bunch of fruit and granola, and just did the trek. I do have a confession to make. Between Arizona and Vegas, I had to fucking pull over to stay awake. I tugged one off on the side of the road in the middle of the desert.
Stay awake?
So yeah, surprisingly, it gave me a jolt of energy, but I had to try anything. And I'm trying to.
Where'd you come?
I had a coffee
Arizona.
cup. I just had a coffee cup in my cup holder, so I just did it in there, and that was the end of that. So I don't know.
And then you had some natural buzz energy to yourself after.
Buddy, I was rumble stripping it, and I had to get back because we had to record the podcast. So I just figured, hey, let's do it. Let's get the endorphins popping. And it worked. I fucking threw on some rap all the way home for the next, 3.5 hours. I was just driving, waiting to get some bars on my service. And I'm like, yeah, there it is. Like,
hey, I love, by the way, that on the Pink Whitney tour, Business Pink Whitney expedition out Western Canada, I watched the behind the scenes, very funny. And he mentions, I love these long drives. That's where I get a lot of my thinking done. And apparently ejaculating all over a Toyota's Corolla.
Yeah. No, it wasn't like I did it in a casino parking lot. I was in the middle of nowhere. Basically where the Hangover crew broke down. But aside from that, back in my new place here, and like I said, I'll probably be tarps off in a few minutes because I am leaking right now, and just excited to be back. We had a couple calls with TNT already, and we are just fired up on all cylinders. We're traveling to Colorado to kick off the year. We're doing preseason. So we got, we're going to take a look at, I think Boston's playing New York in preseason.
I saw that the Bruins are at MSG, I think, this week.
It'll be good to get a little look at what they have without a few of their stars in the lineup, right? They're going to have a lot of work ahead of them as far as managing these injuries and at least trying to stay afloat in a very difficult division. We saw Pittsburgh do it last year without Malkin and Sid to start the year, but now I'm hearing Taylor Hall might not even start the year. So just he's
out a couple weeks.
Just a big shit sandwich for the Bees, but hopefully the Swayman, the titty bouncing Swayman, can hold them in it. No, just really, really excited. And then we got Colorado too on the preseason. So against Dallas, another team who it should be interesting to see the outcome and whether they can get Robertson signed. So a nice little warm up before things get going on the road live in Colorado. And then you mentioned it, RA, Thursday, flying in to watch the Coyotes on the road, season opener in Pittsburgh, then followed the next night by a live show. Sold out in 8 fucking minutes. And then we put a few more tickets on sale. Those sold out in probably 2 seconds. And we're going to start off the season in style. And I think we actually have, I don't know if now is the time to mention, we should probably throw over to Whit. We're going to give you guys more details as to what's going on that trip. But I'm excited to hear what you have had going on in the last couple of days.
We'll get to Whit 1 second. You did mention Colorado, Dallas. We are previewing the Western Conference a little later in the episode. And we have general manager of the Calgary Flames, Brad Treliving, on with us. A great interview with a current GM. You're going to enjoy that. But let's check in with the Whit Dog. What have you been up to, buddy? Hitting them sticks at all?
I did today, yeah, but this weekend was amazing. Before I get to that, Biz, you mentioned Granelli's background looked like Dahmer's apartment. I would realistically rather be in Jeffrey Dahmer's apartment than in an 86-degree place in Arizona like you are right now. I cannot believe that. For how much money you have to have the AC not working is insane to me. But nonetheless, my weekend was incredible. Congratulations to my brother Colin and his new wife, Claire, on an amazing wedding they had. Bar Harbor, Maine. Holy shit. I knew nothing about this area. It's a hike. Very up north. I think there's a 2-hour ferry from Bar Harbor to Nova Scotia. One of the most beautiful little towns. I felt like I was in Europe. All right, you ever been up there?
Not sure I've been to Bar Harbor. I've been a bunch of spots in Maine. But
okay, well, this place, I knew nothing about it, but my brother's wife's family has a place a little bit north. And it was just an amazing weekend, right? We saw all the guys that we had down at the Georgia football game that I mentioned. It was a blast. Friday night, nice dinner, and then like a little party, a welcome party for the entire wedding. And then Saturday, boys got ready. It was an early church wedding. Then we went to, I think it's Acadia National Park. Beautiful. Take some pictures, lakes, mountains, just this amazing. I realized it was the first national park I'd ever been to. The first one. There might be one that I was at, but I'm pretty sure this was the first one. And then at the wedding reception, my brother Sean and I, we toasted Colin and Claire. We did the best men speech. Like I mentioned, Colin and I did Sean for his wedding. And so Sean and I did it. We set some things up Thursday and Friday night. And I think we did good. Actually, a couple people even told me Colin had couple of those tears coming out of his eyes during the toast, so that made me feel pretty good. We chirped him. We more told him how we really felt about him as a brother, and we talking about Claire as well. But we also had to mention a couple times. I mean, this kid, I had to bring this up. We would get make popcorn or get pizza and watch movies growing up. You know what I'm saying? Like any brothers would. He would slam down glasses of milk while we were eating popcorn and having pizza. Milk, dude. How disgusting is that? I'll never get over it. The fact he used to do it, it's just dairy upon dairy. It makes me want to throw up even talking about it. So that was mentioned in the speech, but it was great. It was great. And flew home Sunday. A little bit of an issue flying home. We got a plane to go up there. I didn't want to drive the 6 hours. So, ended up splurging to get what they call a PJ in the biz. And we fly up. Instead of 6 hours, 45 minutes, no problem. Amazing. Leave at 11 on Thursday, in the hotel room, 12:30. Joke. Well, Sunday we go back. Dude, it was blowing 40 miles an hour right around where we're landed. Small little airport in the town of Marshfield, south of Boston. Tiny little airstrip, bro. Tiny. It was gusting up to 40. And the pilot mentioned, hey, when we're coming in, this thing's going to be landing. This is a propeller plane, 6-seater. Nice, very comfortable ride. But I'm telling you, Biz, it was not a heavy plane whatsoever.
Final destination type shit.
Listen to this. So we're going down, and it is as bad of a landing as I've ever experienced on a plane. I can see the runway in the distance. Dude, we are legitimately facing sideways to the runway and then going back left sideways, and we're going down at a hard ass clip. We're in an airplane. My son says to Bree, Ryder has no idea. Dude, he has no idea. He goes, Mom, are we going to crash? Like, kind of laughing. I go, Ryder, don't say that. It's not funny. My brother-in-law's in the back seat, dude. This kid, he checked his whoop after. His heart rate got up to 185. 185. And my wife's aunt is behind me, and she, dude, is white knuckling my seat in front of me, sweat pouring down her face. Bree has her eyes shut. Like, I'm talking, it was actually very scary. I go, shut up, Ryder. I didn't say shut up. I said, Ryder, don't say that. 5 seconds later, he goes, yep, we're going to crash, I think. 4.5 years old. Yep, we're going to crash, I think. At this point, I was like, oh, my God. So right before we get to the runway, dude, we go back right. I had a moment. I'm like, this is it. And he rips it left. Boom, boom, boom. One of those bouncing landings. I let out a fucking scream. I go, yes, great job. It was Steve and Manny. Yes, Steve. And thinking back to it now, it gives me the chills. Because this thing was a panic attack. So it was a great weekend, though.
I think we can, RA, you mentioned like clapping when you land. I think we can let this one go, right?
Yeah.
RA, you were talking about when it's a normal flight, right? I mean, right. You just saved my life.
No, that justified the clap when you got a white knuckle.
Helicopter landing.
Helicopter landing.
Stand up and do a twirl. One of those. Actually, I think you still live in a national park when you were down the Navy. Yeah, that's technically a national park. So you actually
Okay, so that's exactly what I meant by I probably have been them, but I'm talking true national park nature-ish.
Like a Yellowstone type giant park. And Acadia, I haven't been there, but I've heard nothing but incredible things about it, especially if you get catch a sunrise there as well. So
Whit, how much would he have to pay you to go on a 1 week hiking trip and like go to a national park and camp out and just chill out? Not glamping, going the hard way.
I wouldn't do it.
You not any amount of money.
Oh, what did you say? How much would I get paid? Now, that question's tough because the amount of money I'm going to request for some of these things is just pretty ridiculous. But I don't know, 200 grand you give me, I'll go do it for a week.
Need a sponsor biz, bankroll it.
I just worry about my body. It's not about like the activities during the day. That's great. It's about sleeping in a fucking sleeping bag, dude. I'll be crippled.
I did mention in the intro, the NHL starts later this week over in Europe. So make sure you're stocked up on the old Pink Whitney, everyone's favorite 5 times distilled vodka infused with fresh pink lemonade flavor. Not sure if they have any over in Prague quite yet, but make sure you have some back here in North America. You get it at your local package stores, or you can belly up at your local bar, get a nice shot, mix in some club soda. However you take it, grab some Pink Whitney for the upcoming season. Merles, I know you're probably fired up already. What's it? Czech Republic, they're opening up, or Chechi, I'm sorry, they call it now. Nashville, San Jose, they're playing Friday at 2 o'clock Eastern time. Then they're playing Saturday, 2 o'clock Eastern time as well. NHL Network, if you want to check them out. Those are the first 2 games of the season before we jump into everything else. Were you aware of that?
So they did rule that they're going to let those guys play, right? From Nashville and San Jose.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They're here. They Nashville played tonight. I watched the game. They played the Switzerland team, Bern, and it's where Yossi's from. So it was a huge homecoming for him. And of course, he scored 2 goals.
Oh, my
legend!
God. Guy. How many ladies just jamming themselves with vibrators in the crowd?
Yeah, wait till you see the clips of him like after the game. It was insane. And then tonight, Tuesday night, San Jose is playing Berlin, Germany. So that game will be on too. But it's cool. It's great. It comes on at 8 o'clock my time here, so I'm loving it.
Yeah, that clip was pretty cool. The whole crowd going wild for Yossi, not just because he's good looking, because local hero. Biz, last week's episode. You took the stance that PK Subban should be in the Hall of Fame. I know it caused quite a few ripple effects out there.
Oh my! I got destroyed.
I believe he said it would be crazy if he's not in the Hall of Fame.
No, but it was also a hypothetical in a sense. And I thought I made that point clear. I said with what he's done on the ice and everything for the game of hockey, I think that if he ends up having a media career that lasts, let's say 15 years at ESPN, which it seems like he's going that route. He ended up doing some appearances last year. I think it'd be crazy if he doesn't end up going into media. I think he was born to do it. And we went back to how much success he had in his NHL career. Grinelli thought he might even make more money in his post career. Don't agree with that comment unless he is doing Good Morning America, or what's the other show called that Kelly
Total
Ripa
Request
does?
Live with Regis and PK and Kelly Lee.
Or opens up an OnlyFans. But I think that if he has a 15-year media career where he is headlining ESPN for the hockey category, I think 100% he's going in as a builder. Because I agree with his hockey resume, he just simply doesn't make the cut. People's argument would be, well, the Norris was in a shortened season. I think it was the shortest gap in which a defenseman had ever won it. People talked about his sustainability of being a top defender, probably only lasted about 6 or 7 years, being a top, I would say 10 to 15 defenseman. And racking up points and playing in all types of situations. So I agree with you. Just simply his playing career, he's not going to the Hall of Fame. I think the playing career adds so much value to the fact that if he does go on and have a successful media career, that it would be ludicrous if they didn't put him in as a builder. I would say, aside from Jerome McGinley, he has the best hockey resume as far as a black hockey player. Am I wrong here? Is there anyone else I'm forgetting?
Grant Fuhr, I would throw into the mix. I know he's a goalie, so it may be skewed the measurements a bit.
Fair enough.
I got to throw Grant Fuhr in there.
Forgot about Grant Fuhr. Gretzky's going to absolutely scald me for that one. So hypothetically, maybe I didn't make this point last week. Merles, Witt, RA, I'll throw it to you. Do you guys think if he goes and does ESPN and he's front and center, growing the game on the biggest sports channel in North America, and he runs away with that media career, do you not think he's going in as a builder at some point?
I don't know, Paul, because it's then you're like, well, if he's doing it as a media person, should he get in as a media member? In which case, you don't really get in the Hall of Fame as a media member. You get voted on the right. They vote on a writer and a broadcaster every year, so that's not actually being inducted into a Hall of Fame. I guess that as a builder, Paul, if he were to do that, yeah, then you could say, well, you can add in what he did off the ice during his career. You could probably make a case where he'd have a nice TV run here. But, you know, and I'm not sure if we clarified that last week that you meant as a builder. I mean, strictly as a player, I don't see him getting in just as a player. But, yeah, if he has this extended TV career where he further extends and expands what he's done, you know, outside of the game and, you know, minority communities and whatnot, then, yeah, I'd certainly something we could revisit as a builder. But, you know, right now, as far as, you know, I think it's 3 years after someone retires, 3 years or 5 years, is he going to get voted in? I don't see it happening.
No,
right
I don't see him going in as just a player. I thought last week I mentioned with what he's done as a player, if he does go on to have a very successful media career and continues to do the types of things he was doing as a player and more, obviously, because he has more time on his hands. Yeah, I think it's inevitable that he will be in the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's 15 years down the road. It could be when he's, you know, 50, 60 years old and finally retired. But I mean, I just think that overall at that point, the resume would speak for itself. I mean, and people say, well, you don't, people would say like, well, you don't just get voted in for the color of your skin. And I would say, well, like, I mean, and people might start going nuts, you know, because you start talking about the race subject, but it's like Willie O'Ree, you know, he was the first black player to ever play in an NHL hockey game. Well, you know, how many games he ended up playing? Probably, you know, 20, maybe a handful, maybe half a season. And obviously because he was the first, that, you know, that's an important aspect of growing the diversity in the game and inclusion. And of course, you know, breaking the color barrier in the game of hockey. I would just think that there's a lot of responsibility and as a black player in the NHL in a predominantly white league, that he did have an extremely successful career. He did so much off the ice as well while he was playing. And that's my opinion and I'm sticking with it.
Okay. Well, I'll just say that being a superstar media personality, like that's not going to, if you do that along with major things towards growing the game, helping out the youth, and doing all these things, you could be a builder. Being a superstar in the media could help, but being a superstar in the media on its own does nothing for getting you in the Hall of Fame.
Correct.
So you're saying being a builder, you're saying as a builder, but
I'm saying is
if
like,
you're going to spend so much time as a media superstar, like what are you going to be doing to build the game?
Well, I mean, we already talked about the money that he's donated and that happens over time to the Children's Hospital. You know, I just think that it would, given the full body of work, it would be crazy if this guy did have the successful media career that I expect that he will have. I think it's just, I would say he's the most known black hockey player to ever play the game.
Jarome Iginla.
But you have to understand that he also retired how many years ago? And PK is also the type of guy who he's put himself out there. So he's still visible because he also wants to be. This isn't saying that he's as decorated of a hockey player as Jarome Iginla. I would just argue that from a national, even world standpoint, he's probably the most known black hockey player to ever exist.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you on that. Another name, Paul, that keeps coming up. Paul Henderson, of course, he scored the big goal in the Summit Series, Canada versus Russia back in 1972. It's the 50th anniversary, so there's been tons of news about it. You know, it seems like every year it comes up, Paul Henderson should be on the Hall of Fame based on, you know, what he did in the Summit Series. But Matthew Bonafide doesn't really agree. He said, Paul Henderson is only a Hall of Fame if you're Canadian and over 60 years old. Stop it. Like, I don't know, it cracked me up. It wasn't disrespectful to Paul Henderson, but I think he was making the point, like, you know, is that a resume that get him in the Hall of Fame? Now, if Canada lost that series, would it still have the same impact? Because he must have grown up hearing about it quite a bit.
Yeah, I would put the Summit Series on par with the Miracle on ice and how much Canadians talk about it. It was big at the time just because of the hatred towards the Soviet Union and maybe with what they were getting away with early in the series. And then obviously the physicality and the dirtiness and all that shit ended up taking over. So it just created so much more drama. The fact that it ended up going the distance in the series. So yeah, but you're asking a guy who has Shane Doan in the Hall of Fame too, right? I'm the most. If I had a vote,
The Hall of Biz.
I'd have fucking Merles in there for giving McKinnon his number, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
And the hot streak he's been on with the EBR crew.
That could be in for that. And I'm the first former NHLer to turn into a handicapper. Am I not? Do I get in for that?
Okay, so and this isn't shitting on anyone either, because Kevin Lowe and Guy Carbonneau had tremendous careers. I think Lowe won 5 cups. Carbonneau, how many did he win? 3 or 4, or at least a couple, I would imagine.
Oh, yeah.
And Guy Carbonneau, I think he scored less than 300 goals, and he was inducted into the Hall of Fame because he was one of the best shutdown forwards for probably the better part of 7 years to maybe what's a 10 years? That's not a decade, is it?
A decade, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
fuck, I was on. Yeah, there you go. Like, most people would argue that. So like, oh, what are you saying? A team achievement is what got him into the Hall of Fame? That's not what, I don't think that's really what it's about, right? It's about your individual accomplishments. Of course, being a good teammate, and there's other things that require to be, on the resume in order to get in. But there's other guys you could argue who had similar careers as PK who haven't done what he's done or will do off the ice. Is that a fair statement, Whit?
Going back to PK in the Hall, I would say it's a fair statement. I mean,
because we're on the Hall talk about, we went to
no,
Paul
I
Henderson.
know. I just don't see him as in the Hall of Fame. And my whole point is that it's so hard to say, like, yeah, if you do all this stuff, you're in as a builder, because it's like you got to just it's stuff to me that I wouldn't even know what you could do until I see it. Do you know what I'm saying by that?
Yep. I was speaking hypothetically, which I usually do.
I know. That's what we do here.
But as you say, if my aunt had a cock, she'd be my uncle. So we can move on from the PK talk.
Well,
I got him going in the Hall of Fame.
About the Summit Series, though. I have a thing about the Summit Series. As an American, I'll say that's one of the coolest stories in hockey. I don't know if I saw a movie on it or read something, but 8 games, for Americans who don't know, they played the Soviets 8 games, 4 in Canada, across Canada, 4 in Moscow, and they were down big after the 4 games in Canada, enough where I believe Phil Esposito was pretty much calling out the Canadian fans who were booing them and basically saying, we need you guys behind us. And then they went over to Moscow and were dealing with God knows what in terms of the absolute bullshit by those scumbag Russians in terms of the fucking fire alarm going off in the middle of the night, not
sending pros over the hotel,
all that stuff. And then Henderson scores this goal. They end up winning the series. It's in one of the songs by who's the Gord Downey's band?
Tragically Hip.
Tragically Hip has it in one of the songs. It's just, even as an American, that is one of the coolest national hockey stories you could ever even think of. It's amazing. So I don't mind putting him in the Hall of Fame because that's hockey history.
All right, take that one, Barnaby. And you're the American saying put him in. I like that. I mean, I'm gonna have Canadians DMing me to fucking tell me.
Let's get Ruzioni now.
Well, there are some points. The Hall of Fame is just so ridiculous in so many ways. Like Alexander Mogilny isn't in the Hall of Fame. Come on,
joke.
Guy Carbonneau, you just mentioned, great player. Alexander Mogilny versus Guy Carbonneau. JR should be in the Hall of Fame, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we can move along with the Hall of Fame talk. Merles, we were talking about the beginning of the show, this little truck that come out in the ice during the game. Now, did you say it was bringing the pucks out to the linesman, or was it what was the deal?
It brings the puck out to the ref for the opening face-off. Just another way for the European teams. If a lot of people probably don't know, European teams are run by sponsors in cities. You don't have a rich owner, and you don't make the money on the ticket sales. So it's any little way you can find a sponsor, you get one. For instance, if you score a goal, and our team, whoever scores the first goal has to go over to the penalty box, and you get this giant billboard of Bite Line Pizza, and you skate it back across the ice and you give it back to your bench. So they're paying just for that commercial, basically as you skate across. So any little thing they can find to make money, they're trying. Yeah,
me and Biz, we were talking, setting the outline the other day, and we were going over all these pregame things that happen. Biz, I found the one with the anthem singer. He's skating as he's singing, and he trips over the rug. He takes a blatant Dixie, but he keeps singing. He gets back up.
Kept on trucking.
The song. There's so many of them. But then the other one, the lady, she forgets the words. The crowd just sitting there. She leaves. She comes back out, starts singing, takes a Dixie, and then gets up and just completely.
So that was,
completely
I want to say it was Team Canada playing in an international competition. And was it Theo Fleury who was by the door? Somebody was by the door to end up helping her out, but
I think it was Draper.
Oh, Draper. That's who it was. So she butchers it, gets embarrassed, goes down the tunnel. Finally, someone's like, no, you got to go out there, regroup and finish this thing. So her wheels must have just been spinning.
Oh my God.
She comes out like a bat out of hell. And there's the little rug. She steps on it, slips out, and then boom, ass over tea kettle right back down the hallway for repairs. But my wheels were spinning. Obviously, the guy cruising around singing it who bailed and then just kept going. I remember seeing a bunch of tweets because I want to say it was at a Canucks game and Luongo had already been traded and he had the slick back. So people were like, holy fuck, Luongo looks like shit. He gained a few LBs. The minor league ones are always the craziest because just as you described about how they had the truck come out, they have to do these silly things in order to garner attention. They do special theme nights. There's most teams that end up doing a Star Wars night. We had one in Manchester where they had Darth Vader come out, and we were the fourth liners, so we were at the far end of the gate. And I'll never forget Josh Gratton was leaning over. And this guy, dum, 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 dum. Same thing. Just high stepping a little too hard on the rug, slips out, ACL torn. Couldn't even drop the puck. Gratz steps on the ice. He's like helping him up. That was a tough one. The Bakersfield Condor had a real condor come out, and then it just started flying around, going crazy on the benches, down the tunnel. But was there any other wild ones? I think the KHL, didn't they like slit a turkey's throat or something?
Yeah, Drew Shore told the story. Pre-game goat throat slit or something, right? In the locker room. Yeah, they were doing some sort of animal sacrifice. But
okay, so that wasn't pre-game.
Just not on the ice. Pre-game, I think, in the locker room.
Team. Yeah.
I think they were trying to get some.
Can you think of any other good ones that happened like right before puck drop?
There's one I looked hell and high water for this clip. It was a retired, I want to say a Montreal Canadian, not like a big name one. And he was taking a pregame lap and he fell like twice. This guy was in his like 80s, like close to 90 years old. And he, like I said, he wasn't like a high echelon Canadian, and he fell, he got back up, skated, and he fell again. It was like, and he finished the run. I asked online, I couldn't find the goddamn thing. Someone will probably tag us in this after they listen to the show. But going back to the Star Wars one, Biz, like when Darth Vader ripped his ACL or MCL, he lost his helmet too. And as a person in the costume community, Whit could probably speak to this.
I forgot about that.
It probably hurt him more losing the helmet and showing everyone he wasn't Darth Vader than it was actually shredding his knee when he fell down like that.
Yeah.
Same with the Condor too. The Condor's putting around the ice. And
Billy Guerin was pissed when the helmet came off.
False trying to get
he's
him,
not real. Hey, if those are the ones that we've seen, I can only imagine what's happened in leagues that we've never heard of, or college
or the internet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So if for any of you fans out there who are listening and you have crazy ones that are just on iPhones, send them to the Chiclets account, whether it's Instagram or Twitter, TikTok, whatever the fucking apps you guys are using, and send them to Grinnell so we can see them. But that's pretty much all I could think of off the top of my head for the pregame shit shows.
Yeah, if anyone knows that old time, I'm pretty sure it was the Canadians. It's like they're supposed to be like a nice tribute, and he takes not one but two Dixies, and he just gets up and keeps going. The guy's in his 80s, so that's a classic one as well. But we can move right along here. Mike Johnson made an interesting proposal on Twitter. He said, for preseason games, if you lose a player to injury in the first two periods, you should be allowed to replace that player from one of the two guys not playing. From one of the guys not playing. It makes no sense to force guys to play extra minutes or out of position in preseason. Whit, I'll go to you first. Is this something the NHL should seriously look into? Are there too many drawbacks to it? What would be the benefit of maybe bringing this rule into the preseason?
I saw that tweet by Johnny who said he'd come on the show. We have to get him on. And I agreed with it. I mean, I couldn't think of any reason I wouldn't. The only thing I'd say is real kick in the dick to whichever guy they pick. I mean, unless actually that's old miserable me thing. If it's a hungry young buck that wants to get in the game, he's probably real fired up. But you gotta get a nice little warm up going, right? I mean, you're hopping right into the middle of a game that is kind of make or break for a lot of players. Preseason hockey, I mean, guys are playing for their livelihood. So you'd have to get ready quick, but I think these young guys would have no problem doing that. So I see no issue with that whatsoever, because it's true. You don't want to be getting overplayed and or a D-man goes down. All of a sudden, a guy's got to play 29 minutes in a preseason game. It's a little ridiculous.
So those are the two main arguments that were brought up, were the fact that, you know, especially with the speed of today's game, throwing a guy in cold could just result in another injury, and or like maybe they were, you know, crushing dogs up in the press box, or they ate like a massive roast beef. I think I was listening to 32 Thoughts, and Elliot used the example of somebody eating a roast beef sandwich and going out there and like feeling like a piece of shit. I would imagine though that if they did change the rule, they would just designate guys. But I personally think it's fucking crazy that they're willing to throw an e-bug in there in a regular season game, and why not just distinguish two beer leaguers, pick two beer leaguers for each team before the preseason games, to where, I mean, I think the element of surprise and the fact that there's an e-bug and it gains national attention is one of the reasons why the NHL doesn't mind it. Because every time an e-bug ends up coming in, it ends up making the news. I mean, you saw the one that was in Chicago, the most famous one we ended up having on the podcast. I'm drawing a blank to his name. Somebody
David Ayers when he beat the Leafs.
David Ayers.
Jocker, right. You forgot
you
that one.
You didn't need to throw that in, you fucker.
Oh, I mean, it's just for the people listening.
That's a fact, all right, correct?
I mean, yeah.
Don't you talk about my Leafs like that. But just pick a couple beer leaguers each side. Think about how awesome that would be. These guys would fire up. It'd be like an opportunity they would never get. Do it as part of the 50-50 draw.
Ooh, that'd be an interesting one.
What would you say, Whit, as far, why not, right?
I couldn't agree more. It just reminded me. I think I've seen Big Cat tweet this. I'm pretty sure it was his idea. Maybe it wasn't, but he used to say, like, every Olympic event should have one normal person just to show how good these people are at things. Yeah. So in the 100-meter sprint, you just get some guy, Joe Stanley, from down the road, and he just is like 40 meters behind these people when they finish.
They should scroll through Twitter and all the guys acting like hardos thinking they could do it, and pick one of those guys and throw them out there. And that was, I mean, I know Big Cat already said it, but I think it would give fans a real big appreciation for how fast and how skilled these players are. And it would shut a lot of these random people up on social media barking about how they could get the job done.
Merles, I want to ask you, does it take away like an actual game scenario that could provide useful experience for some guys? Like just, you know, when you're down a man and just having to juggle the bench a little, or just having to play under those circumstances?
Well, exactly. A guy like me that's trying to make the team and I'm penciled in on the third line, no power play time, and a PP guy goes down, then all of a sudden now I'm getting that extra ice time. Maybe I'm showing off and I get that lucky goal to keep me on the team or whatnot. But I think why not just dress the extra guy then? Just dress this 21 players or 22 players and let the coach deal with rotating them all through and keeping them all warm and into the game. I don't know.
The lucky goal to make the team, like when you scored and then got sent down on the flight home.
Yeah. Thanks.
I think that the whole point got brought up because Rasmus Sundin, and the fact that a couple players forwards for the Leafs had to drop back and play defense. So after the game, I know there was a bit of a holdout between Rasmus Sundin and or Sandin, excuse me. I don't want to mess that one up for you Leafs fans. I don't want to give you hope that he's coming back. But he was holding out for apparently closer to the 2 million mark per season. Ended up settling at 1.4 and said that it was like, oh, I don't want to put my team at risk or in jeopardy because now they're down a couple D, where, I mean, he's restricted and didn't have any leverage, but okay. Not a bad PR move by trying to get ahead of it. And the fact that you held out for camp. Oh my God.
And I'm like, that is such a great flex, I guess. Like, oh, I don't want these guys to be too tired. I know they need me. It's like, dude, you couldn't get any more money. You had to take their offer. Well, Dubas said, hey, this is my final offer.
Well, and he's a little offensive defenseman. So I think he's hoping that the Leafs fans don't get on him if he's got a couple early turnovers after signing his new deal. One of the arguments, though, that his side had was he wasn't really able to get the reps and the ice time in the situations that he wanted in order to earn that money. They had, a decent amount of depth on defense in order for him not to get those reps last year. Well, hey man, you got the first half of the season to show your stuff now. You just got the new 2-year contract. You got a couple D that are banged up. You're going to be able to get your reps. And hey, you have a good year. Maybe you re-sign in the off season. You play next year at the other 1.4 number, and you earn yourself a big extension after that. So not like Leafs had any cap space to begin with. So I don't know what they would have done in order, or who they would have moved if they could have given him any more money to begin with.
Alrighty then. I think we should probably move along to the previews after the Leaf talks. Even in a Western Conference preview, we get some Leaf talk in from Biz. Kick it off with the Pacific Division.
I was bringing up why the whole conversation came up from Johnny.
Breaking your balls. I haven't seen you for a while.
I know. I love
They
it.
come up and told you. Western Conference preview, Pacific Division. We're going in no particular order here, so we're going to run it around. Vancouver Canucks. Last year, they finished with 92 points, ended up 10th in the conference. This year, they're 50-1 to win the Stanley Cup, or plus 5,000. New faces in town. Ilya Mikheyev, Curtis Lazar, Andrei Kuzmenko, who comes over after 8 years in the KHL. They lost backup goaltender Yaroslav Halak, but largely remained intact. Team got a huge bounce after hiring Bruce Boudreau last year, came up just short in their playoff chase. Like I said, essentially the same team coming back, which means I suspect the D is probably still an issue. Thatcher Demko as well played 64 games last year. You might want to lessen that number. Biz, I would say a good start should keep the Canucks in the playoff chase all season. Still a little ways from a cup run. Brock Besser is going to miss the start of the season after getting surgery on his hand. But what's your prognosis on the Canucks, Biz Nasty?
I think that the list in which Boudreau was named 16th hottest coach in the league goes to his head. He gets involved in a sex scandal and everything comes unhinged and they don't make playoffs. That's really my only prediction. Some people disagree with the fact that he was that high on the list. I don't know who made the list. Some people like different shapes and sizes. And I just, like I said, I think that, he's on Cameo now. He loves the media. I just really think that there's probably a lot of ladies in that town that want a piece of the Bruce. There it is. Bruce. There it is.
Hey, big boy, weren't you in Slapshot?
A worst, Chan.
Hey,
the worst.
you don't think he's fucking putting barbecue sauce on toes and licking it off?
He's getting donuts right in between your cornhole. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
This is all alleged, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to get sued.
Some website, I'm not going to say that the name, they supposedly use some app to determine the list, whatever formula they use. But here's how you kind of suspect it was a joke. The number one best looking coach, most handsome coach, Jay Woodcroft, followed by Daryl Sutter, Derek Lalonde, John Hines, Paul Maurice, Rick Bowness, Craig Berube, and Dallas Eakins tied.
Where is David Quinn?
David Quinn was 29th.
Oh, I think it's an opposite list.
I think that they take personality into account. They take overall games won resume into account, foreplay,
Woodcroft half a season,
dirty talk.
Sure.
They take all of it into account. Right?
Yeah.
So it's not just looks.
Okay, fair enough.
But just think about all the guys on that list. That's what coaching does to you. All those guys look a little weathered now.
Oh,
that's why you don't want to get in a coach. And half that list is bald. No offense, RA, but
none taken.
Coaching in the NHL would just age you.
Since Chiclets started, Murr. Look at what Chiclets has made me look like.
In all seriousness, RA, I would say that I would probably put Bednar as the best looking coach in the league, and then I would probably put Quinn right below him. What other man rockets are behind the benches?
Bednar was 15th. Cassidy was 23rd. Cooper was 27th. I just said Quinn was 29th. Montgomery 31st, and Peter Laviolette was 32nd. So, yeah, the list is a little wacky, you might say. Like I said, it sounded like it was tongue in cheek, and after that top 10, I'm guessing it was.
Seems like it's in reverse order.
Yeah, it does. That's why it felt like a troll job, and I guess it succeeded because here we are talking about it. So yeah, Vancouver. What do you got? What's your take on it, Whit? Quickly.
I love their group up front. I mean, the major question all year is kind of the Horvat contract situation, being their captain, UFA at the end of the season, and that's going to definitely be a big time storyline there. The D is just, it's probably not good enough to get into the playoffs. I do think, and the record with Boudreau is so good. They were such a successful team when he came over, but I don't know. It's like, no offense at all to Luke Shen, but he's in the top 4, right? I mean, that's probably not a top 4 guy at this point of his career. I don't know what Ekman Larson has. I actually do not know. How did he play the second half? How did he play last year?
I think he's just really turned into just a regular third, fourth defenseman.
Top
he's not
4,
really.
Though?
I think that in most teams in the league, he's probably at least a number 4. but it's just people look at the tag and they're saying like, this is ludicrous for what he's making because he's just simply not providing the offense that he once did. I mean, I think I've mentioned it multiple times on the podcast. I think he went 6 or 7 straight seasons with what's the word I'm looking for? Double digits in goals. I think in 2 or 3 of them, he had over 20. So that's what he got paid for. And he just can't get it done offensively anymore. And also Quinn's getting those reps. He's getting those touches. So he's kind of come second fiddle to the offensive touches as far as the back end, but a lot of money committed to that back end between Myers, Ekman Larson, and Quinn. You're looking at what? $20 million right there. So agreed with what they're commanding financially, just not a good enough back end. Now you mentioned Shen, he is working with Adam Oates. So maybe he comes in and he looks like fucking Quinn. Who knows?
No, that's a possibility. I'm just looking at their D up front though. I love Mikheyev. I actually thought he was awesome on Toronto. I know you kind of used to bring up his postseason numbers and performance wasn't great, but can fly. And they brought him over there. Pedersen probably has the ability to be a 90-point guy. I mean, well, I don't know what we're going to get out of him. A little bit of a question mark there. And I mean, JT Miller was so sick last year. So looking at them up front, they can score and play with people. It's going to be the defense and it's going to be the goaltending. And I don't have them getting in, but I have them battling all year to get at one of those wild card spots, or maybe the third in the Pacific.
So just quickly before I hand it off to Merle's RRA, I agree with you, which is probably not a good thing because I think that
they're going to win the President's Trophy.
No, Demko is going to slap lipstick on a pig. I like that Boudreau's the coach because it seems like a skilled group that needs to play loose and with confidence. I felt that, Green probably had a little bit more structure, maybe commanded more at both ends, which most coaches will tell you. But I think everybody knows that Boudreau is a player's coach. I mean, you saw the way that it happened in Washington. So probably the perfect coach for that group, but you're going to end up drafting 12th, 13th overall, and you're not going to get any impact players. I don't think that they're going to make playoffs. I just don't think that they're good enough. And Demko is going to keep them in it till the end.
Just a note too, we are going to give out playoff predictions at the end of all 16 teams we talk about tonight. Merle's quick question for you. If Vancouver were to get in, what would be the major reason why they do?
Yeah, it got to be Pedersen. Everybody was all over him last year, had a terrible year for his standards. So he'll bounce back. He's a hockey nerd. He's been listening to this stuff. And like Whit was talking earlier, he's going to play better for this coach. And Boudreau always has winners. Boudreau always gets into the playoffs. If it was in Hershey, if it was in Washington, Minnesota, he's in the playoffs.
All right, moving right along. The Seattle Kraken had 60 points in their inaugural season, were 15th in the conference. They're only 75-1 to win the cup this year. That number seems suspiciously low for a second-year team. New faces in town: Andre Burakovsky, Oliver Bjorkstrand, Justin Schultz, Martin Jones, and if Shane Wright sticks in camp, him as well. They lost Riley Shane from last year. It seemed like last year, guys, nobody knew what the Kraken were thinking the way Ron Francis constructed the team. He brought in Hackstall as a coach, but at least they brought in some offensive punch this year with Burakovsky, and Bjorkstrand. Of course, Matty Beniers, his first, 9 or 10 games last year, he looked like an NHL-ready guy. He played the other night. I think he had 2 goals the other night. He looks like he's going to jump right into this lineup. They're another team probably hoping to hit the Bedard lottery as well. Like I said, 75-1 odds. Yeah, it seemed wicked low. They should be better this year, but how much better? Merles, we'll go to you first on this one. Seattle, how much better are they actually going to be?
Yeah, I think they're going to be a lot better. That just those players you mentioned are all better than anybody they had last year. Burakovsky, Bjorkstrand, and Berniers. Wait, was that 3 Bs? 3 Bs, yeah. So that's put them all in a line, and they're going to be a lot better than last year. But yeah, they're still a long way to go.
Did you mean Beniers?
Beniers, yeah.
Beniers?
Is that how you say it?
Beniers? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
All right, you forgot their biggest acquisition this offseason. Was it
that new troll?
How do you say it? Boy?
Buoy. Like,
Biz,
what's up here, Buoy?
Biz, did you see the tweet? I think somebody tagged it was legit a combination of me and you with his ears and his snout. It's like, it made me laugh out loud. Although quickly, not the funniest tweet I read this past week, which was, I don't know who sent it. Under the NFL protocol, they'd put JFK back in the parade. After the two of both.
Oh my!
Sorry to get away from Seattle. No. They stink. But
right.
Awesome hockey market we saw last year. We saw those fans come out in droves. And Merles, they are better. They are, but they can't really be much worse. I think they were the third worst team in the league. They were horrific. But RA said all year their goaltending was trash. I think now it's Grubauer and Martin Jones. So if they can get some stability in net and get the 3 Bs to start ripping it up and get a little bit more mojo within the team, I could see them improving, but they're nowhere near the playoffs. And they probably don't even want to be near the playoffs yet. Like if you ask Ron Francis, I know that sounds crazy. Yes, he's going to say I want to make the playoffs, but ideally they get a couple very high picks for the next 2 to 3 years. Shane Wright, a couple more like that. Like they got lucky. They got 4th overall, ended up getting Shane Wright there. So things are looking up, but there's no success to be had quite yet.
No, Ron, you said it. Ron Francis, when he did the expansion draft, he was looking for sustained relevancy. He saw the draft crop coming in. They're going to be going for Bedard. No questions asked. They're going to be going for Bedard. They're going to be a bottom feeder this year, but that was the goal coming in. There was plenty of guys they left on the table. Tarasenko's a name just off the top of my head they didn't end up picking up. They thought they solidified their goaltending in Grubauer. He was not great at the start of the year last year. I think that he's going to have a bounce back season, but and they got some great pieces for moving forward, and they would definitely be more competitive. I mean, how could you not be? But yeah, this is the goal. This is the plan all along. And they got some young studs in this pipeline. And if it wasn't for the Coyotes, I would say they would get Bedard, but we all know that he's coming to the desert. So suck on that. And the Mascot, what are we giving this Mascot rating? I
don't know. Let me give the folks a little background. A Seattle sea troll, he's described as Biz, not to be confused with Twitter, which is your standard fucking internet troll. Bowie is the nephew of the Fremont troll. I guess in Seattle, there's the Aurora Bridge. There's an 18-foot high, 13,000-pound concrete troll. That's just like an art presentation, I guess they built years ago. And he's supposedly the nephew of the Fremont troll. He's got an anchor in his earring. He spits a single chiclet as well. He has a removable tooth like a couple of you guys do. Legend has it that he once jammed with Mudhoney at the Crocodile. Mudhoney fans of the Chiclet
What does that mean? You jammed him?
Like rock and roll? Like
Mudhoney.
Mudhoney's the group that the lead singer that I met at the Black Rose, and I didn't know it was him. And then he led a chant saying, "Fuck you, RA."
I thought you said Mudhuddy. Like H-U-D-D-Y.
Mudhoney. Right. That's
if the goal is making the ugliest mascot of all time, I mean, they accomplished it. So I'm not crazy about it. I'm sure we're going to have a couple run-ins now that I said that. I'd like to see Gritty pound his face in, to be quite frank.
I still think Gritty's uglier.
I know, but it's like that ugly cute, like a pug or something.
It's Philly. It's ugly trash.
Yeah.
Like cigarette butts in his beard and shit.
When I seen it, Biz, I was just like, it's like, it looks like one of those old troll dolls a little bit, like kind of like mashed with Wally the Green Monster from Boston. It's just, I don't know. It's supposed to be for kids, but it doesn't look like the most kid friendly.
I mean, I feel like they've gotten J.K. Rowlings to just write all these like crazy things for like how they were going to release the name and the sea monster. Now they got this mascot and everything's got to be this like wild, crazy story. But I mean, A for effort, but not my cup of tea.
And the fans are like, just get us a W, please.
They got those stupid octopus heads for the fans. I had one of them going at me online. I'll dig that up and start chirping him.
You had one of them on your head during your draft picture. I did.
So this leaves the Rangers as the only team without a mascot in the NHL. And I don't imagine it's going to change knowing the Rangers. And how about this, Biz? This come over the Twitter the other day. The Denver Nuggets mascot, Rocky, says he makes $625,000 a year. And the average mascot makes $60,000. And I tried to find the article. It was behind a paywall. I guess this guy must get a lot of side gigs, or like they must hire him out to do all these like local things, because $625,000. That's
gotta be fake. There's no way this guy's pulling in $600.
I sent the link in the Denver Nuggets mascot Rocky, $625,000.
All right. You got to blog that. That's blog worthy right there. And I saw you did a blog today, so good job on that.
Well, that's amazing. What's the girl from the U.S. soccer team who went to Congress about equal pay? Why aren't these other mascots making $600,000? They should be.
They're in a crack house. If there's at the rink.
If there's one guy on this podcast who can vouch for mascots and why they should make $600,000, for all of you people who haven't seen the Biz does the Coast series. Whit came down when we were in Orlando when we did Pink Whitney night. He was kind enough to throw on the mascot outfit and have a little bit of fun. He almost lost his life.
Yeah, I barely made it out of that suit. So you're right, Biz. I should be right on. By the way, where would I be on the ugliest mascot list? That I don't even want to know. But I actually am on the side of every other mascot getting big bumps in pay. But if all the mascots are making 60 grand and this guy says he's making 625, there's just something completely incorrect there. Either he's lying or all the mascots make way more. But I'm way more bound to believe that 60K is the average salary for a 41 game per year job in a cartoon suit.
Hey,
Yeah.
so I've met a few of the NHL mascots. I think it's a little bit of a caddy industry too. Like
remember the guy?
It's very
clicky. We had an issue with one, didn't we? Where they were upset at you for telling a story or something. Remember that?
Yeah, we don't need to go into it. I don't want to be getting attacked by these mascots.
Yeah, they're like bike riders on Twitter who just like band together to scream at people online if you call them out for driving their bikes around like assholes.
Can we round table right now about just quickly, what should the Rangers mascot be if they had one? I would imagine that they're traditional and they're never going to get a mascot if they haven't done it already. What would you say should be their mascot?
Glenny balls.
Pizza rat. Fucking big rat that fucking piece of pizza out of his mouth. Very emblematic of New York City.
That you mean Splinter?
Oh,
From
Master
Ninja
Splinter,
Turtles?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think you can have one.
Yeah.
I actually love that they don't have one.
What is
Now-
even the range? What is a ranger when they're called that?
It's a good
I
point.
don't
Anybody even know?
Yeah, that's a good question. Now, going back to Rocky, this happened. I don't know if it was the current person who's in the suit, but like 10 years ago, remember they were lowering him from the ceiling. I mean, he had passed out. So when they lowered him down, it was just a passed out mascot. The Rocky the mascot, he was just total luggage. So they're dropping him down instead of like being all excited and getting the crowd pumped. He just like literally slumps to the floor. They have to unhook him. He probably fainted. What can attest to how hot
They're like,
those-
wheel him back up, wheel him
dude,
back up.
I got a buddy. I got to shout out Mike Higgins. Me and him used to get kind of stoned and watch bloopers of mascots. And I'm telling you, it was the hardest I've ever laughed. Tears running down my cheek watching some of these mascots fumble fuck over their feet. I remember that one. All right, passing out in the line. It's just, I mean, the guy who didn't he get caught in the hoop that was on fire? I mean, there's just so many of them. It's amazing to watch. I'm gonna YouTube it tonight.
Okay.
Just
I'm gonna check that out,
YouTube mascot bloopers and turn your day right around.
Rocky passed out might be the friggin' funniest. Okay, before we continue on, here's a word from our friends at Blue Nile. Whether you're looking to pop the question, have a milestone to celebrate, or want to let your love sparkle, Blue Nile can help you make your celebration even more memorable. As the original online jeweler, Blue Nile offers the largest selection of independently graded diamonds and pieces priced significantly below traditional retailers. Blue Nile has helped millions of couples create their perfect engagement ring. Their easy online tools let you choose the diamond shape, size, and clarity, as well as the setting style. And Blue Nile's bench jewelers will then help you handcraft her a perfect one-of-a-kind engagement ring. Looking for a fine piece of jewelry to commemorate a special milestone, but still having trouble choosing? Blue Nile has jewelry experts on hand 24/7. They're available via phone or chat to help you find a memorable gift at every budget. Shop stress-free with Blue Nile's 100% satisfaction guarantee. All Blue Nile orders are insured and shipped for free in discreet packaging. They also offer overnight shipping if you're in a rush. I got my wife gorgeous diamond earrings a while back. She absolutely loves them, as does everyone who sees them, and she tells them my husband got them at Blue Nile. So make your moments sparkle with Blue Nile. Go to BlueNile.com and use code Chiclets to save $50 on your purchase of $500 or more. That's BlueNile.com, code Chiclets to save $50 on your purchase of $500 or more. BlueNile.com, code Chiclets. All right, moving right along. The San Jose Sharks up next. They had 77 points last year, finished 12th in the conference. They're 100-1 to win the Stanley Cup this year. New faces include head coach David Quinn, Oscar Lindblom, Luke Kunin, Nico Sturm, Aaron Dell, and Matt Benning. They say goodbye to Brent Burns, Aiden Hill, and Rudolph Balsers. Let's see. New GM Mike Greer. He's definitely got his work cut out for him. This team They're kind of in salary cap hell. And after losing the Western Conference Finals in 2019, it's been 3 straight years of no playoffs. And again, this is a team that spends to the cap. They still got 5 more years left of Erik Karlsson at $11.5 million, 4 more of Marc-Edouard Vlasic at $7 million. I don't know, man. What's going to get fixed here with San Jose fixed? Yeah, first, what do you got on the Sharkies here, boy?
Not much. I feel bad. I feel bad for the great fans out in San Jose, and that building was hard to play in for a long time. I'm not sure, and correct me if I'm wrong. I'm guessing the atmosphere around the games is probably a little different with the team struggling right now, last year being a tough go. But I'm very much so rooting for this team because, as we've mentioned a bunch, Mike Greer has a plan. Everyone who ever played with him loves him. He's going to be loyal to the players, loyal to the coaches. He's going to be no bullshit, tell you the truth, doesn't really care about mincing words, if that makes any sense. He's going to exactly know exactly what he has to do to make this team better. But the salary cap issues that they have, the Vlasic's deal and the Karlsson deal, and it's so crazy. I guess there must have been people who at the time said, oh, this is going to be a tough deal with Erik Karlsson. He's had injury, but 11.5 now. It's unbelievable. Cale Makar makes 9 point. What does he make? 9.5. Makar's going to end up being the best deal maybe ever signed. The fact that that guy makes 9.5 and Karlsson, somebody making an 11.5, it's tough for teams to compete when you got players that are, and this is not really a shot at Erik Karlsson. He's getting older. He's had tons of injuries. It's more a thing about this team being at a place right now where I was shocked Hurdle signed with them. So it's great they have Hurdle, but they just have so many different guys that are going to kind of have to get off the books before you can really start revamping this thing up again to become contenders, which they were for about 15 years.
Yeah, I mean, tough when you start out the breakdowns with mentioning the building,
coach and the GM,
the coach, the GM, and how the building's tough to play in. I bet you couldn't name 6 players on their roster.
Yeah, so let's see how many I could make. Logan Couture, Marc-Edouard Vlasic, Erik Karlsson. I'm not good at this sometimes. Thomas Hertel. I'm not looking at anything right now. Nick Bonino. Like Barbanov or something. Some guy, some Russian name. Oh, shit. This is LeBanc. LeBanc.
More than I could have named.
Looks like he's on the dozen trivia cheating right now.
I'm not cheating. I'm looking at the rug, dude. I'm looking at the rug. I don't have any others right coming to my mind.
Wait, I'm sorry, Biz, rather. How did the Sharks go from a bonafide contender to a lottery team so quickly?
Well, listen, like shout out to Ron Wilson. Is it Ron Wilson?
Doug Wilson.
Who I was thinking of? Doug Wilson. I was thinking of the old coach. Jeez, I'm just struggling with the names today, as always. Shout out to him, man. They had like 15, 20 years of relevancy. I think his plan shifted to where he was going to build from the back end. And, you look at when they signed Burns and then when they brought in Karlsson, what they gave up to get Karlsson, which ended up being like a massive, massive mistake. Hey, man, good run. You put the team in a very difficult situation now. You look at other teams and they would have fucking prayed to have a GM that good for that long a sustained relevancy. So they're going to be shit for probably a good 2-3 years. And Greer's got a lot of work ahead of him. You look at other teams, around like, for instance, the Ducks, like, yeah, they're going to be shit, but at least they got Cap to work with. They got some young guys in the pipeline. So it's going to look pretty grim here. And I got really nothing positive to say other than the fact that they're going to be getting a very high draft pick next year, but it ain't going to be Bedard.
I got a question. Merles, why is Dahlin in Sweden?
Yeah, he didn't get an offer back from them, which I thought was surprising. Yeah, he's on their first power play last year, and now this year nothing. So that's a guy that left, a young guy that you could have maybe built around, but they need to just trade everybody and, like you guys said, in a few years, start all over again.
But if you're is he a free agent or is he still like restricted and they have his rights? Like he could have signed anywhere else. So that just tells me.
I think he became unrestricted. Yeah. And I don't think he got offered a one-way. He wanted a one-way to stay over there.
Yeah. A little more stability.
So instead he's helping us cash bets here in Sweden.
I will say though, an organization that is drafted and developed very well over time. So I trust that they will get this back on the rails.
Well, speaking of drafting and developing, the LA Kings are up next. Last year, they had 99 points. They lost in the first round, 4-3 to the Oilers. They're 30-1 to win the Cup this year. They brought in Kevin Fiala, which will certainly help their top six. They lost Dustin Brown to retirement. Andreas Athanasiou left, and Oli Mata left as well. This is a team that surprised many last year by making the playoffs, and certainly look to build on it with prospects like Quentin Byfield, the year older. I just mentioned Fiala, solidifying that top six, making them much more dangerous. Jonathan Quick head into the last year of his current deal. They'll have a healthy Drew Doughty back to start the year, along with Matt Roy, Sean Dursey, and Sean Walker is coming back after a torn ACL. So the Kings not going to sneak up on anybody this year, but Merles, let's go to you first. Do they improve on last year's performance, and how much or how little?
Ooh. I had them not doing anything better, but I think you might just talk me into it with that breakdown. The Fiala, I still want to wait and see, though. He had the perfect spot up there in Minnesota, and he jumped ship now to LA. It's always a little difficult when you come to new line mates, new city. So I'll be interested to see how he does. And Quickie's last dance, probably. So I'm a big Quickie guy, and if there's anybody that can pull off one more run, it's him.
Whit, we'll go to you next, Whit. That one's right over the heads. What's the biggest issue for the Kings, Whit, heading into the season?
The biggest issue?
Yeah, in your opinion.
I think they need some of these young guys to take big steps forward. I think Quentin Byfield is not like, he's the one I think of, second overall pick with all this skill. It's one of those things where we hate calling guys out like really early in the career, but you got to see something, right? You got to see some big time step up in terms of like that one more year of confidence development. You could see him hopefully kind of breaking through. This team is like bizarre because like I actually love Dursey. This is the D-man they signed, Dursey. This team's weird to me because of how good they played last year. They got in. And then remember, they almost beat Edmonton. Like I was like, first of all, before the season, there's no chance the Kings get in the playoffs. They get in, and then they look like they have this thing won up game, up 3-2. So it's a team that for sure is looking to keep going. And the biggest thing is that Doughty had mentioned he was done with the rebuild, done with the shit. And now it's like, all right, I want to compete for a cup again. And they didn't have him for a long time, right? They need that guy healthy. They need him playing, but he's not there to fuck around. So I expect this team to get in the playoffs again. I don't know how they're going to do it because I don't even know how they accomplished the feat last year, but getting more exciting to watch them. I mean, when they had those cup teams, I loved watching LA beat the shit out of teams at home. But I haven't wanted to watch them in quite a while, but I'm getting more into that team.
Biz, does this year's LA Kings have a cup run in them at the end of the season?
They made me look like a complete idiot last year. I thought there was not a chicken dick's chance in hell that they made playoffs, and I will not be made look like a fool again. I think you look at their strength down the middle. They got Kopitar, they got Deneau, and then Byfield. So let's not forget last year in training camp against the Coyotes, Byfield ended up breaking his ankle. So he had a very difficult start to the year, coming back from injury, trying to get up to NHL speed. So I think he's going to have a breakthrough season, especially with the lack of pressure when you're playing against those third line reps. I think that their bottom six is extremely underrated. I love their top six, especially at the fact that they added Fiala. They got Arvidsson in the mix there. Kempe, all-star last year. He's getting better year over year. He has that speed. Let's not forget, Doughty was injured in the back half of the season, didn't end up playing in playoffs, and they still ended up getting into playoffs. Why is that? Because everybody on the back end knows their role. They're all committed to team defense. They did play that weird system last year where they were shutting teams down through the neutral zone. Am I crazy about it? No. Does it make for boring hockey? Absolutely. But Todd McLellan doesn't give a fuck. And they got a good 1-2 punch in net. Merles, you said it. Last dance for Quickie, it might be. That team and those guys and that leadership group love that guy. Everybody does. He's the fucking man. And he doesn't have to be the guy. They got Cal Peterson. They got him. They can split the games 50-50. They're going to have rested goaltending night in and night out, along with that overall, team game and how they shut down teams with that offense I just talked about. I think that LA is making playoffs for sure. And am I supposed to be saying that I think that they're going to make playoffs or not, or am I supposed to wait to the end here?
We could wait till the end. I mean, you could sort of tease a little bit. We're going to do a final tally.
I'm going to give you California crew out west a little ball tickle because you're the only California team that's going to be making playoffs. The other two stink.
The other young guy, Kaliev, American sniper, played in the O. and you saw him have some impact games and play pretty well. And then, like, can Deneau be as good as he was there last year? Biz, I'm with you. I don't know how they're going to get in, but I'm not 100%.
I just told you.
Probably going to pick them.
I just told you how they were.
Fair enough. I should have listened better.
Hey, we didn't even mention that Walker kid. They have so many young guys that aren't talked about because they're starting games at 10:30 on the East Coast. I'm telling you, man, Rob Blake and staff have done a tremendous job. And I'm not wearing the L again, LA Kings fans.
Yep, I didn't last year. Won't be again this year. Going a little further south from LA, the Anaheim Ducks last year finished with 76 points, 13th in the conference. They're 80-1 to win the Stanley Cup this year. They brought in John Klingberg, Ryan Strome, Frank Vetrano, Dmitry Kulikov. They lost Ryan Getzlaff, who retired, Sam Steele, and Sonny Milano. I think adding Klingberg and Kulikov gives the D some much-needed experience in the background to go at Fowler, Shattenkirk, and Drysdale. We'll see if this Owen Zellweger manages to stick around.
I heard he's fucking nasty.
Yeah,
this kid. Every kid I talk to, I'm like, hey, who do we have on? Was it McTavish?
Yep,
and he was.
yeah.
I mean, he's going to be his teammate, so no wonder he was stroking him off. But every person I asked to for that Team Canada, who the most underrated guy who's going to end up being a star, this kid.
And Vetrano and Strome, they should goose the offense. They combined for 86 points last year. The team's about $16.5 million below the cap. They do have Zegras and Troy Terry RFA after the season. GM Pat Verbeeke's basically putting some dough aside. He's rebuilding via the draft. They have 6 picks in the first 3 rounds of the next draft, so they're definitely stockpiling picks there. Goalie John Gibson back for his 10th season. Playoffs definitely a long shot here, but with so much young offensive talent, they should at least be fun to watch. And unfortunately, our buddy Trevor Zegras got the wrong kind of Chiclets bump last week. Oof, tough hit. Looked like a clean hit he took.
You can't be hitting the cover boy like that.
Okay.
What you doing, Coyotes?
They said Dallas Eakins confirmed that it wasn't a head injury, so they didn't specify, but it wasn't a head injury, which I guess is good news in today's day and age. You don't want a dinghy at this stage, but either way, Ducks, we'll go to you first, Biz. It
was a cornea injury from staring at the sunsets.
His bearded dragon spit at him.
I mean, I kind of touched on it earlier. I don't think that they're going to do anything this year. I still think they're going to get a high draft pick. I would say that they would probably maybe be in that playoff contention, but I love Gibson. I think he's a tremendous goalie. He has struggled to stay healthy. That's probably because he's facing 60 shots every night because they're a bit of a liability defensively. But I'm just really excited to watch this team and to see how these young guys progress. I don't think that in hockey, the Madden curse, so to speak, is a thing. I want to say every guy ends up lighting it up. Like Roman Josi was on the cover not too long ago. Matthews was on the cover. So I expect Zegras to have another breakout year. I mean, he ain't worried about it. You heard him say it a couple pods ago. He's like, oh yeah, I just did the same stuff, not a care in the world. So just really excited to see the growth of these young guys, whether McTavish sticks. And I'm going to be tuning into more Ducks games just for that reason. But it's a team that is definitely in a rebuild, but I think it could happen sooner than later, especially with where the cap's going and with some free agents that are going to be on the blocks coming up, and they can replenish stock pretty quickly and be relevant.
Is there any chance that they kind of surprise? I mean, remember, this team, I think, was leading the division halfway through the season, which was smoke and mirrors. But I don't know, like, what if McTavish is sick this year and Zegras lights it up, and maybe this Zellweger makes it on D. Drysdale takes another step. Gibson's a hell of a goalie. I don't see them getting in playoffs, but everything I read makes it sound like they're just going to be horrific. I don't really see that. Strome's solid. You bring Strome in. I don't know. I think they could surprise more than people are leading on.
I think sometimes young teams do have starts like that because they're so amped up for the season and they tend to blow their load pretty early. I think we all knew with the lack of experience and how young they were that the 82 games is eventually going to play itself out and they weren't going to make playoffs. I think what's great about it though, Whit, and I hope it does happen and they do get out to that hot start, because I want to see more fans in that building. And and if they do get up to that hot start, and they fizzle out late, at least it keeps everybody in the fan base engaged. So I don't know. I just don't see them having a great year.
Burrows, after that hit on Zegras, Adam Henrique went over to Arizona's Jan Jenik to take him on. Now, do you think the team regrets not keeping or at least replacing Nick Delarier? Because you got young studs ran out like that,
and they don't have Manson.
when you're facing Biz's Coyotes, like Biz said, he's going to get a bunch of meat in there to get that little barn rocking. But yeah, I actually had a little stat about the Madden curse for you, Biz. And only 2 of the past 26 EA NHL cover athletes teams have gone to the second round of the playoffs.
Okay,
11 of the teams have missed the playoffs.
Okay, so it's more of a team curse, not
curse,
an individual curse.
And what I see on my notes, only one, Patrick Kane was on the cover and they won the cup. He was the only one.
Interesting.
Of
Great
course.
nugget,
Stats.
Merle. Great
Little
nugget.
nugget.
I think that's pretty much all I had on Anaheim anyway.
Yeah, no, that's about it. I don't think there's any huge expectations for them, but
California had a long run of just wagons in that state.
So just going back to your comment, everybody's bringing up, should there be should stars be able to get hit in preseason? It was it's kind of like a dumb fucking argument, man. These stars have already made their money. These other guys are trying to prove themselves to make the roster. That's how I did it when I was in Pittsburgh. I had no business making that team, but I went into camp. I was hitting everything that moved. I think I fought 4 or 5 times in camp. And, Terrian called me in his office, blew cigarette smoke in my face, and told me I was coming to Europe for the premier games.
Shit. Put that in your Tarrenton and smoke it. All right, next up, the Vegas Golden Knights. Last year at 94 points. They were 9th in the conference. 17-1 to win the cup this year. They bring it in head coach Bruce Cassidy, Phil Kessel, Aiden Hill. They're saying bye to Max Pacioretty and Matthias Janmark. After all this early success, I'd say the buzz come off this franchise a little bit in the last year or so. Teams got through a bevy of coaches, made a lot of trades. I mean, they have nothing to show for Max Pacioretty right now. New coach Bruce Cassidy's taken over after being fired in Boston. They're going to have no Robin Leonard to start the year, hoping that Logan Thompson can grab the goalie reins while Aiden Hill and Laurent Brosseau will fight it out for the second fucking spot there. On defense, Pietrangelo, Martinez, Theodore McNabb, Whitecloud, and Hutt look to make up a pretty good D-core. Restricted free agent Nicholas Hagg remains unsigned. And, of course, Jack Eichel. He gets to start the season fresh and healthy. Not if they'll jump in midstream or go out of camp. So it's going to be interesting to see what he does. Him and Phil Kessel obviously got some early chemistry going thus far. What, Doug? What are you thinking on Vegas?
Oh, I fucking wanted this one bad.
I'm sorry.
I'm fucking rock hard to talk about the Golden Knights. You take it first, though, Whit. I trust you.
All right. I mean, buddy, I'll go to you quick. The biggest thing is this injury to Leonard. It's such a question mark. Is their entire season pretty much fucked with Leonard out for the year? Not to mention Brossois out for fucking possibly half the year with also another. I think he's got the hip injury.
It doesn't matter. They got Logan Thompson.
Okay, yeah, Logan Thompson. Forgot about him. He's going to backstop into a cup. I will say this is one of the most confusing teams to me. I do think Eichel is going to light it. He looks at this crazy different level in preseason. It's preseason, but I mean, imagine the bullshit of injuries along with a entire city and fan base hating you because of you wanting out and all of the off-ice things that he's dealt with. To go into this season healthy finally is probably such a peace of mind thing. Make some future bets on him for the over points, a possible award winner. I mean, this guy, superstar level this season, I think. It's the health, and it's like, I don't understand how you're going to win games at a consistent level with bad goaltending. Maybe your boy Logan lights it up and this isn't an issue, but if it is, dude, it doesn't matter how good the offensive is. It doesn't matter how many times Kessel scores this year, 30 according to Keith Yandel, and it doesn't matter if Mark Stone comes back and dominates both ends of the ice. Without a goalie, you got nothing.
I think that Logan Thompson ends up top 7 in Vezina voting. That is a hot take, and take it now. Everybody loves a come-up story. This guy played Canadian University hockey, and now he's going to be the starting goal. He played Canadian University hockey, and he just got, I believe, a 3-year one-way deal. He is on an absolute bargain contract.
You got him top 7 in Vezina.
I got him top 7 in Vezina voting. I think he's going to have an incredible year. There's no pressure on him. And he's making peanuts.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, there is.
No, there ain't. He's making peanuts. I bet you half the fucking fan base didn't even know who the guy was when he got.
Kid becoming a starting goalie is going to feel a little bit of pressure.
Not when you're making $1 million and everybody else in the team's making fucking 7 or 8.
Yeah, he wants to make more to maybe retire and have some money left. I mean, fuck. There's pressure, dude. I think
this is going to be an unbelievable season for the Golden Knights. I think they're going to get back to their winning ways. And the best part about it all is if they don't, I think management's going to have to walk the plank. Nah, 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 nah.
Right over Treasure Island.
Hey, goodbye. Like most things, you go to Vegas, you show up, you think you're going to take the house down, but then you end up calling your insurance company to file for a stolen Rolex out of the safe from some fucking skunk you met at the Chandelier bar. And your passport's gone, so you can't get on the plane. It is going to be an entertaining year no matter what, whether they're shit, whether they're unbelievable. I personally am all in on the Golden Knights. I think they will get back to their winning ways. Book it. Logan Thompson, top 7 in Vezina, and Eichel is going to fucking light the lamp. And all you Sabres fans sending me fucking Eichel cum shot memes. Fuck off. Fuck you. All right? That ain't funny. Enough with the cum shot memes.
I'm right with you. I have this already written in my EBR Futures blog for Barstool Sportsbook. Art Ross Trophy winner, Jack Eichel, 80-1. 80-1 for fresh Jack Eichel. And this
Art
one, I can't
Ross,
believe
okay.
I can't
believe you're on this
Wow.
one with me. I got Logan Thompson plus 1,700 for Rookie of the Year. He's going to be a starting goalie. No much more like chances he has than these other guys just playing a couple minutes a game. Plus 1,700, Barstool Sportsbook, Vegas.
Wow.
And the last reason, can you imagine if we get to do our Western Conference trip like we did last year?
All right, get your
Vegas?
hand out of your pants. It's a kid's show.
Which hand?
I want to go back to Edmonton.
Biz, I like the
Edmonton,
tweet.
Vegas in the final.
That's the only place Whit feels like Elvis.
I'm a god there now.
Vegas sent out a tweet, Biz. They call it the Jack and Phil show, or Jack and Phil, and I'm like, oh, that's what they call Biz's pregame routine as well. Jack
Only
and
on my
Phil.
road trips.
Yeah, he watched his goal assisted by Kessel the other night on the side of the highway in Oregon.
Would you like a little creamer with your coffee, sir?
Oh, which is that? Hair cream? What's a hair conditioner?
Ooh,
Some
this
of
is,
Old Mary.
I think the milk went bad. It's a little salty.
Who is that hair gel? Oh, Biz, you're fucking bananas. All right, moving right along. We got
All right, tell me you're not hammering that Logan Thompson for Rookie of the Year.
dude, 80-1 for Art Ross. That's what I'm going to be DMing fucking Merles after we finish the show.
I was
We'll drive
thinking.
up to New Hampshire.
I was thinking MVP. Like I know Art Ross is scoring leader. It's just so hard with those two in Edmonton. But
MVP 50-1.
oh, there it is. All right, dude. I'm on one of those.
That's what I was like, either one, and then I was like, I'll take that one.
It's
The
just
80 to
about
1
the,
is
the value. It's not so much that he's going to beat the other guys. It's just that's just
No, I know.
tremendous value.
I understand
for
how
a guy.
game-
And the reason I love Vegas so much is because how many hockey fans despise them. They have to be the most hated team in the league at this point.
Leafs.
That's fair.
No, the fans definitely have done a 180. The hockey world as well, Biz, just like I was saying, just, all the coaches and players, they're not the fuzzy little teddy bear they were a couple years ago. Let's put it that way. So before we go any further, here's a word from our friends at Shopify. It's time to knock that new business idea out of the park with Shopify, the all-in-one commerce platform to start, run, and grow your business. Forget the off-season work. Shopify makes it simple to sell to anyone from anywhere. Whether you're selling warm-ups or wall hangers, it's time to start selling with Shopify and join the platform simplifying commerce for millions of businesses worldwide. With Shopify, you'll customize your online store to your brand, discover new customers, and build the relationships that create diehard fans. Shopify fields all the sales channels to grow a winning business, from an in-person POS system to an all-in-one e-commerce platform, even across social media platforms like TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. And thanks to 24/7 support and free on-demand business courses, Shopify is on your team every step of the way. When you're ready to take your winning idea to the world, team up with Shopify, the commerce platform powering millions of businesses down the street and around the globe. Try out Shopify for free today and start selling anywhere. Sign up for a free trial at shopify.com/chiclets, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/chiclets to start selling online today. Shopify.com/chiclets. All right, there's a couple more teams to get to here. Battle of Alberta played the other night. These teams already scrapping in the preseason. No surprise there. And next up, the Edmonton Oilers. A bit of a breakthrough year for the Oil last year, 104 points. They lost in the third round to the Avalanche, 4-0. They're 16-1 to win the Stanley Cup this year. They brought in a new goaltender, Jack Campbell. I also brought in Matthias Janmark. They said bye to Duncan Keith, who retired, Mike Smith, who was on long-term injury reserve, and Zach Kassian, all parted ways. Let's see. Campbell is the big ad for this team right here, Biz, that reached the first conference final in 16 years last year. Then they went and extended Evander Kane to ensure a pretty potent top six. The big question right now is how do they become cap compliant? There's still $7.5 million over the cap. They can long-term injury reserve Smith, as I mentioned, and Clefbaum. That's still going to need another move or two after that. But Whit, I know we just went to you first, but you're a former defenseman for this team. Is this top four on D good enough to win a cup with?
Yeah, how are they getting out of the cap? Jock sniffer.
Not too worried about getting out of the cap. You always hire some math genius to figure that part out. And even though I'm a math guy, I don't have to worry about that. I know that after last season, and yes, the haters are, you got swept. You didn't even sniff winning a game against Colorado. I don't care. Last season is what had to happen. They had to have a little success in the postseason. They felt it. They realized what it took to get there. And they were battling a bunch of injuries, as every team is, but they were. And now to solidify the goaltending, and it's tough because I was all over Jack Campbell when he was a Leaf. He was walking his cat on the side of the road, and I said, Jesus Christ, how are you supposed to win a Stanley Cup with this guy? I've changed my tune. I have completely changed my tune. This is a goalie who has proven to be a number one goalie. And Mike Smith's awesome, hell of a career. But, I mean, last year it just wasn't good enough. Koskinen, I couldn't stand when he was playing. And now you have a guy, not to mention Skinner as the backup, who could play a role, right? I mean, hopefully Campbell's able to play healthy, but he can't play every game. Skinner's going to have a big impact. He could play. Broberg on D is a young kid. The D is not their strong suit. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows it. But this Evan Bouchard is going to get better and better. And this season, I think you're going to see a monster. I was reading even that the other night he played in preseason. Barry didn't play. And so he was on the number one power play unit, snapping it around. And Woodcroft mentioned after, it's not even a done deal that Barry's going to be on that first unit. It could be Bouchard. Has a rocket of a shot from the point, can dish it around, skates well. And that with Nurse, and everyone says Nurse is overpaid. Well, still, dude, he's an animal to play against. And yeah, he's not going to probably get you 60 points, but he's a prick out there. And he could skate as well as most D-men in the league, as well as the high-end skaters. That guy can do it. So I haven't even mentioned McDavid and Draisaitl, which will obviously keep us in the hunt all year long. We're going to win this division. We're going to probably go to the Western Conference Final again. And this time we might end up somehow shocking the world and going to the Stanley Cup Final. This is Connor McDavid. This is the guy that every single year somehow he's doing more and more and more. And now this is the prime years, dude. This is the time. And you saw the passion and the hunger in the playoffs. He was so good. Imagine him now, how fired up he is to get this year going. Leon's healthy again. Puljujärvi is a big player for them. If that guy could take that step, I know I keep saying it. I feel like
Bison man.
Oh, Bison man. I mean, I can go on and on with this team. Yamamoto, I could see him breaking out.
You mentioned injuries, right, Whit? And Yamamoto and Nurse. Well, Yamamoto didn't even play. Nurse was his groin was hanging on by a fucking thread in last year's playoffs. So I agree with you, man. I'm a little scared by these guys. They're still the second best team in the division. They ain't the best team in the division. They addressed the goaltending. They're going to be tough. They're going to be a tough out in the second round for the Battle of Alberta. But this year's the Flames year. But as far as everything they did in the offseason, they addressed what they had to. And I agree with mostly everything you said. Other than the fact that you're a liar. And last year you said that Campbell wasn't a number one goalie.
I know, but then he became the goalie of my team.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense.
And I got the blinders on. I got the Oilers blinders and the pom-poms going.
So, Merles, did the Oilers make it to the third round or even beyond this season or what?
I'm hoping. I left a few Bellini beers at the Cactus Club on drunk last year. I need to go up there again and get a few more of those. And I think McDavid tasted it. He found that next level. He knows what it takes now. They're going to beat the Flames again if it's the Flames, Biz.
100% they will. And Hyman was sick. And listen, Do you remember McLeod in the playoffs? How good that kid looked.
Yeah.
He's gonna get more chances. He's gonna get more minutes. This team.
What about this other kid, Holloway or something? Isn't he a first round starter?
Dylan Holloway. I think he played at Wisconsin. He's got a chance to make the team. I don't know exactly what's going on in camp right now. I don't know. I know they got some young guys really fighting for jobs. I don't know if right now he would be in the lineup. I should probably know that, but I do know that they're exactly where they need to be, and they are fired up to get this thing going. So the Oilers, legitimate cup contenders. If you're going to name 10 teams in the league who could win the cup, they're on the list.
100% they're on the list. How does this cap circumcision work?
I actually have no idea.
They got $7.5 million to get rid of. I mean,
I know.
The only logical thing I could think of is Vander got to gamble it away. That's the only logical answer I have. I'm not a capologist. I'm not a rocket Scientologist over here. He could lose that in a blackjack table in one night, that guy.
According to Twitter Biz, McDavid also tasted human flesh in the Dharma series on Netflix.
My God. I know we're late to this and it's gone viral already. The minute I was so I didn't even know this thing was coming out because I barely watched television, but I was at my friend's, that Jackie Alien I mentioned, and I was like, what's that Dahmer thing? Like, that's like the old murderer. She's like, yeah, like there's been so many of these biopics, and she didn't like it, but we turned it on and I'm like, that's Connor McDusty. That is he should. What would you win for that? An Emmy? Would he be the only human being to ever win an Emmy and an MVP in the NHL?
Quite possibly, yeah. I'm trying to think of any other.
Well, I mean, Wayne was on The Young and the Restless for an episode, so he might have gotten it for that. But that would be quite the feat, man. He would knock out your boy Ted Lasso.
You do a search, McDavid and Dahmer, and it's not one or two people. There's tons of them, and in certain clips, he does really resemble him. Have any of you guys watched it, Biz, Merle's Wit? Any you guys watched this Dahmer thing yet? I've
watched it.
No, all right. I'm kind of with you. Like, I don't even know if I want to watch it. It's just such a downer. Everyone says it's amazing. I'm not in a rush to watch it.
Gurnelli's on
I'm
set.
all in. I'm all in on this show. I love it because, all right, like you said, you kind of lived through this. I didn't really know any of this. Like, I knew Jeffrey Dahmer was like a joke and he ate people, but like the fact, like how in like the cops could never get him, and like this show, I think, is a 10 out of 10 show.
I think that might have been a little dressed up for the show, though. Right? There's got to be some things that they dressed up for the show.
No, I mean, it's just like how did he never get caught? Like, it's like, I don't want to give away too much of the show, but it's like people were calling the cops on this guy all the time. And like, he was always getting busted, but they just let him go back out there. So it's crazy, man. All
right. How much do you know about the real story? Was he actually living in that apartment and the lady next door was like, hey, like multiple times calling the police?
Yeah, I remember. Christ, was it 30 years ago? I when I say lived it, not I was in Milwaukee. Just it was in the news all the time. Yeah, people had called the cops, and Mike just said, the cops did show up. And one time, he was able to convince the cops. I mean, he's a white guy, and there was a black teenager, I think, was in his house, and this guy was able to convince the cops that this young black kid should have been in the house with them. And he, like something didn't jibe there, and the cops let the kid go back on the house. He ended up becoming one of the victims, and there was several other.
There was a real recording. That was the one example they had in the show. They had a couple other ones where the cops like pulled them over. I just wasn't sure if those were accurate events, but there is a documented phone call of that lady calling in about when there was like a minor he had, and they just were like, yeah, no, we handled it. And she's like, are you sure? And then it was back and forth. And then, yeah, nothing.
Drop the ball. Yeah. Like what was you saying? I just can't stomach these shows anymore. Like, not just Dahmer. I mean, I was around when it all had happened. I just like no desire, man. I got a couple hours to watch something. Not everything is going to be funny or hilarious, but excuse me, it's just murder porn on everything. And, John Wayne Gacy tapes, the Ted Bundy tapes, like, why do I want to hear these fucking sick fucks talk about what gross, disgusting, despicable things they did? I mean, I understand the lure of it, but for me personally, man, and I know I just told everybody to watch Blackbird on Apple TV. That was a story I didn't even know about, a serial killer I didn't even know about. I told you to watch that because of the acting, but just as far as the nonstop documentaries, like Netflix is just murder docs all the time. For me personally, man, there's so many other things I'd rather watch than give fucking waste my time on these psychopaths.
Is it considered a biopic?
This is a series. I guess you call it a drama series.
I will say they've been hammering the biopics lately. It's like everybody gets a biopic.
Yeah, it's fucking brutal. And people who say biopic, they shouldn't be able to watch TV either.
Oh.
People pronounce biopic. That's fucking insane.
Yeah, what a bunch of losers.
Hey, gee, is it gory?
I think it could be gorier though. It doesn't usually show him like doing the killing. It just shows him drugging the victims, and then it just shows them like dead.
Yeah,
Right
that's
after.
like that's so sad. I know it sounds like it's just so like depressing to watch that. I feel like, but everyone loves it. I'm not saying it's not a good show. I'm with RA though. I'm just not looking to just hop into that right now.
Yeah, just too
I'm
goddamn.
buzzing.
All right, that's
Too
enough.
goddamn
That's enough
All right.
serial killer talk.
Yeah, there's our serial killer / Edmonton Oilers preview. All right,
Maybe he could figure out their cap problem.
yeah, just get a scalpel out and
I
cut a
just
little.
slice a little bit of it off.
Yeah, he's used to taking off caps.
Saute it up with a little fava beans. All right, last team in this division before we get to our interview. Calgary Flames. They finished last year with 111 points, but they lost in the second round, 4-1 to the Oilers. They're 15-1 to win the cup this year. Lots of new faces, lots of old faces left. New faces in town. Jonathan Huberdeau, Nazem Kadri, Mackenzie Weegar, Kevin Rooney. The Flames said goodbye to Johnny Gaudreau, Matthew Tkachuk, Sean Monahan, and Eric Goodbranson. This team had tons of roster turnover, but as we get to the guy in a few minutes, Brad Treliving felt like Busy got painted into a corner, and he kind of Picassoed himself out of it just with the moves he was able to make and put the team in arguably a better position than they were. If they are better than they were last year, Biz, are they good enough to go even deeper?
What an analogy by you, painting himself out into Picasso. The only painting I'm doing is going to be my mascara to give this guy the double wrister. Every team would be fucking giving away their firstborn to have this guy as a general manager. What he was able to do was like, who is the old magician that used to get tied up and they'd throw him in the water and he'd
David Blaine?
Harry Houdini.
Houdini, not David Blaine. I'm talking card tricks here. I'm talking about escapes, bro. He escaped it. He escaped free agency, brother. And we talk about Edmonton getting better because they added a second string goaltender, as Witt would describe him last year, but he's now a turncoat because he's on his team and he put the fucking blinders on. This is the best team in the division by far. They have everything there is to offer. They got Markstrom and net, top tier goaltender. I think he was an all-star last year. If he's not, he should be in the Man Rocket Hall of Fame. They got an incredible back end, which we talk about defensemen who were banged up last year with the Edmonton Oilers. They had no Tanev. And then on top of that, now they're adding Weegar. So add two fucking studs on the back end to bend that Oilers team over in the second round of the Battle of Alberta, baby. And then up front, I'm going to say very difficult losing Johnny, extremely difficult losing Tkachuk, but we can all agree maybe Tkachuk has a little bit more offense than Kadri, but all around 200-foot game, a great swap. And of course, Huberdeau. I think he holds every record in Florida. I know they got it in that the worst little hockey Hall of Fame setup. Who was in the hockey Hall of Fame there? Ole Jokinen and Luongo.
And
it was
like
like
an old like Bauer helmet with earpieces in, and like from the pro shop, a plastic.
Exactly. They get a 100-point guy in order to replace another 100-point guy. And on top of that, we know Sutter's going to have the boys kicking. They got the bread man, Mangiapane. I think he had 29 tucks last year. They have depth. They have toughness. They have an incredible fourth line that provides energy and that physicality. This team is the real deal. Horrible. I don't want to say coaching, not enough adjustments against that Oilers team. They are going to learn from their mistakes and they're going to blow by, and they will see Colorado in the Western Conference Finals. And I think that we could possibly see an all-Canadian Stanley Cup final, Calgary Flames against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Book it, Merles. Book it at the Barstool Sports book right now. What are my odds?
Both of those teams, I don't know, that'd be a lot of Harvey's poutine I would take down though. But yeah, you're talking me into the Flames too. They're great. I will stick with the Oilers so they can prove that they can beat them. But I can tell you a great Brad Treliving story. Maybe the greatest move he ever did was when I asked him to give me a one-way contract for Phoenix, and he told me to go kick rocks.
Yeah, he gave it to me. He gave it to me.
Knew
buddy.
he was going to be a good GM way back in 2009.
He really said, "Yeah, Murr, nice try, buddy. Like, let's get serious."
And before we throw it to him, the best guy. He's like salt of the earth. he came on. I know he can't let it fly like he normally does, but just a fucking absolute beautician, the type of guy you want on your hockey team. And now he's gone on to have all the success in the world as a general manager, learning under the tutelage of a guy he brought on with the Calgary Flames and Don Maloney. So I couldn't be happier for the guy. I know that I'm stroking him off because he pretty much guaranteed me my one-way contracts when he was the assistant general manager. When you're a peasant like me, guys, you don't get the GM doing your deals. You get the assistant GM doing your deals and all the AHL guys. So I just want to thank him for paying my mortgage off in Welland, Ontario. To Brad Treliving. Cheers.
Hey, if Cody Eakin, I know he was on a PTO, if he ends up making the team, is there ever been a better match in heaven with the guys like Red Flow matching with the fucking team logo and everything?
I think they have
Probably
the best
Laney McDonald with Calgary.
Best flow, bar none, in the league. Calgary Flames. They got Tanev. They got Lucic with the perfect Lego head on when he's walking in with the all black suit. They got Eakins. And then, I mean, Markstrom's got some nice flow on him too. Tell me a team that's got better hair than the Calgary Flames. You should show up for warm-ups just for that reason.
Well, whatever that cross-country team was, that was going viral last week. Some random cross-country college team.
Yearbook photos?
All those wild kids. One kid, Biz, he had half a mustache. It was like a wicked thin mustache, but he only had it on one half of his face.
I didn't see that.
All right. Well, we'll send it for next week and have some laughs about it. But should we send it over to Brad, you think, Biz, about that time?
I think so. And last thing I'll say about the Flames, give them a new rink. Enough with the locker room. We got to get free agents next year too. It's a dump.
All right, but before we send it to Brad Treliving, his interview is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is the exclusive ticketing partner of Barstool Sports. Created by fans for fans, Game Time is a new ticketing app that makes it easier than ever to score last-minute deals on tickets to sports, concerts, and shows, and they guarantee the lowest price. Tons of Barstool fans are using it and hitting us up on social, telling us about all the great deals they've been getting. Me and G were using it all year. We got a bunch of great playoff seats, got some concerts underneath our belt as well. And we got awesome seats because of Game Time. So use it. Get the amazing deals. You're going to love it. Just download the Game Time app, go to the account tab to create a login, and redeem code Chiclets for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download Game Time. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. And now, enjoy our chat with Brad Treliving. All right, it's a pleasure to bring on our next guest. After nearly 7 years as an assistant general manager in Arizona, he's been the GM of Calgary for the last 8+ years. And that time, he's helped return the Flames to NHL prominence, winning 2 of their last 4 division titles. And after the moves he made this summer, they'll likely remain there for a while. Thanks a bunch for joining us on the Spittin Chiclets podcast. Brad Treliving. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Pleasure. How's it feel to finally get the season underway after a very probably stressful summer, I would imagine?
Yeah. No, it feels good to get back playing instead of dealing with all the other stuff. It was an eventful summer for sure. And I'm like everybody else. I don't, we'll see. We've made a lot of changes here, how it all fits. That's what we've got, the preseason and 82 games to go. So I'm excited to get through camp and we've just got camp underway now. So get through the preseason and see how this all looks.
You're acting all calm. Did you expect it to be that big of a shit show?
No. No. I mean, you know what it is, guys? At the end of the day, you know where everybody is in their contracts and the contractual status of everybody, and yet that there's a bunch of different potential outcomes. At the end of the day, and I've said it publicly before, I mean, we went in the summer wanting to sign both John and Matthew. And, players get to a certain stage, as you guys know, in the CBA, and they've got rights and all the power to them. And I don't fault them at all. They made decisions. But, for it to go, it was a roller coaster to say the least. And like I say, we'll see how it, we really like the guys that we've got in here. They fit in with our group now. Now we'll have to spend the next 82 games figuring out how it all works.
That must be hell, going worst case Ontario in your own head for like months leading up. And then sure as shit, it goes worst case.
Yeah, you're right, Biz. You plan out, okay, if what does the worst day look like? And, but again, at the end of the day, we had really, we didn't do a lot of negotiating with players till the season ended. And as much as quick as it was, we still had an extended period of time. So as the summer went on, or, once we were done up until free agency, the longer it went, you kind of have, you're always nervous till you get a deal done, and the deal's never done till it's done. And then obviously Johnny made his decision to move on. Had regular communication with Matthew and his representatives. They made the decision, and then you get to work. At the end of the day, as much as you think, okay, here we go, it's your staff and it's all of us just getting to work. And it was a busy few weeks. I know it was a roller coaster for Flames fans. And here we are.
You're like, you fucked up my cottage time, you motherfucker.
Well, my wife was probably not real happy.
He's like, I'm going up there anyways, Brad. I'll see you in a couple weeks.
Yeah. They got out there. I've got 2 daughters. So they were like, one day my daughter's just shaking her head at me like, I don't really want to be known. I don't want to be, my last name. And then when things turned out, she was trying to use it to move up at the Cowboys line at the, during Stampede.
Oh yeah. I get the VIP wristbands in there.
I said Treli.
Do you know who I am?
Yeah.
Do you know who my father got here? He went and had a filet in Montreal and signed an 8-year deal with Johnny.
Well, that's what I wanted
Johnny.
to ask. When you guys got that done, I mean, that's under the understanding we have to sign him. We want to sign him, but that wasn't at all a done deal when the trade went down, right?
No, not at all, Ryan. And when you're going through this, and we were talking to a few different teams on different deals, and then obviously with the Florida deal, obviously we really like the players. We like Jonathan and McKenzie, Cole Schwint, a young prospect there, and then the pick. Obviously we like the package there, but the guys at the top of the food chain with Jonathan and McKenzie, that's the question. They had 1 year left, so they're coming in, and you're kind of almost, one of the scenarios is you can't get them signed, and you're in a lot of ways in the same situation that you were in before with the guys that you had, and are you kicking the can down the road a little bit? So we went into it and talked as a group and said, okay, if we go down this path, our intention is to get them signed, and then that's great for us to have that intention. You got to have a willing partner on the other side. So we were able to get something done. We went out and met with Jonathan in Montreal probably a week or so after the deal was done. And things progressed. We were able to get a deal done there, and we continue to work at it with McKenzie. So hopefully we can, get that to the finish line as well. But at the time of the deal, no, there was no understanding there'd be deals done.
Like right away, are you planning that trip to Montreal, or was that something that maybe kicked in a week later, maybe assuming like maybe he wasn't happy about the trade or anything, or like what sparked the Montreal trip?
Well, I think Biz, it was like, we knew when we made the trade that, Jonathan's been there for his whole career, right? And like any player, when you've been in one place, he's got roots there. He's been, holds all the franchise records. He's been a lifelong Panther. So there's going to be shock. And so really, once the deal was done, I talked to him briefly. It happened late on a Friday night. And I just wanted to give him a couple days. And, I talked to his agent right away, Alan Walsh, and, we spoke that fairly regularly over the next few days. And I just said, why don't we all get in there and get together? And it wasn't to go in there and start pounding away on a contract, but, he never met me. I've never met Jonathan. And so it was just a chance for us to spend some time together, get to know each other. Let him, sort of understand what we were thinking of our team, where we're at, what we're trying to do, how he fits into it. As you guys know, as players, it's, at the end of the day, it's just trying to give him a comfort level. Who's this guy at the other end of the line that's, wants me to make a commitment to him. So that's really what it was. A lot was made of it. It wasn't anything more than going out and having a dinner with him and just getting to know each other. And I think after that, it's like anything else. So much of this game, I think, is relationships. I think we had a good day together. You at least put a face to a name, got an understanding what we're trying to do here, and we went from there.
Did he beat the pot a little bit? Did he get like a surf and turf or like a nice bottle of Opus or anything? Or What was he, just off the glass and out, baked potato steak?
I saw you got a new free truck. It's a little different than the Lamborghini.
That must have been
That truck
negotiated
looks
during the
nice.
steak for sure.
It's not a convertible here.
I thought you were gonna say you talked to Alan Walsh and say, "Can you not make a meme of like a flame burning my?"
He's like, "Hey,
your
put those
client's
tweets
face
in the draft box and give me a week here, and I think you're gonna be happy."
I said, Walsh, just keep the tweets. Let's just figure this out first before you start firing the tweets out.
Yeah, you're like, Johnny's got to pay for the sidewalks cement at the new rink, though. That's part of the negotiation here, so we can get the city council to approve the new barn. Because if we see one more free agent look at our locker room, I'm gonna have a fucking meltdown.
Hey, now the locker room's taking a lot of heat here. I mean,
a lot of heat, Brad.
Yeah, I heard it was nice, and then Sutter tore it down and then built that.
My daughter's telling me about the heat the locker room took on social media. The locker room, and I don't know, somebody came in, I took some pictures of it, but it was at that time, it's the middle of the summer. A lot of the stuff's done. The locker room's just fine. Let's just pump the brakes in the locker room. When it's all dressed up, the locker room looks good.
There better be some rich mahogany in the
Fair
new
enough.
rink.
The GM is pumping the locker room's tires, so we have to take him for his word. But
Locker room's okay.
forget the Florida deal. I mean, obviously the Kadri signing was enormous, and the question that we had as a group on the podcast was, as time went on and on, it was like, is this a Lamoriello Islanders signing like a 1 week before the season? The whole time, were you guys in discussion? Like, what was that whole process like in terms of finally getting that deal signed for him?
Well, we talked to them, when free agency opened, but at that point in time, we were, we had a few balls in the air.
Yeah.
And just, we communicated that we liked the player. But until we know, that time we hadn't got the Florida deal done, or had the Matthews situation resolved, quite frankly. So, and then it just timing. I think there's a bit of luck as we went through everything. Nas was still there. And so, I think a big thing in this, especially in the environment in the last year or so, is as normally is the case, free agency opens, there's a big rush. And with the cap pressure right now, with everybody up against the cap so much, once you get into free agency, even a few days, usually there's very few teams with cap space. And we were one of them. And we kept talking to Nas, we were able to get a deal done. And then we needed a few days to clear space, and we made the move with Montreal, which is a tough move. Sean Monahan's a player that's been here since he precedes me in Calgary, and just a great kid, a wonderful guy. But we had to move some money to fit Nas in, so it took some time. And I think there was, I think there was some luck involved in it, Ryan, just because. As much as we like the player, we had to do some things to move some things around, and luckily enough, we were able to get a deal done, and Nas was still there.
Was he still talking to Colorado a little bit? Like, would he be honest about that? Like, were they trying to still work something out?
I mean, I'm not sure. I know that, I think Nas, anytime you win a cup somewhere, I think he obviously had a fond, had fond memories, or not even memories, but he had a great time in Colorado, liked the situation there. And I think if he could stay there, I think that would be his preference. But we all know that, again, in today's world where, the cap is what it is, and there's player movement. I think he was talking to a number of teams. I don't think we were the only one. We stayed in regular communication. We tried to let them know what we were trying to do. We'd like to get something done. And if we were able to get something done, then we got to move some money. So, we came to an agreement, and then, shortly after that, it took us a few days to free up the space to officially get it done. And here we are.
You were the mistress. He left his wife for the mistress.
Brad, prior to the last deadline, given the uncertainty with Johnny Gaudreau, was trading him something that ever was even on the table, or just never considered it at all, given the circumstances?
No, I mean, the team was going well, and our hope was we were going to, we said our hope was to have a strong finish to the year and go on a playoff run. And these things at the end of the day, they're easy to Monday morning quarterback after the fact and say, okay, well, you didn't end up re-signing him, and you should have moved him. I think it would have been a real difficult thing for us to do. The season that we were having, how important Johnny was, the season that he was having, and again, our hope was to get him done at in the off season. Didn't happen. But no, that wasn't anything that we put any thought into.
Can we bounce around a little bit? Can we go talk about your playing career for a little bit?
It's a very short time. As we got 30 seconds.
We had similar roles. You played in the coast, you bounced around a lot, and you were a scrapper. I looked at the penalty minutes. Were you getting beat up a lot?
A lot of tens, Biz, a lot of tens.
Asking the ref to give you a 10.
Yeah. Or earning them.
Your career was not great when every team you played for is no longer in existence. Like there's no, you finished playing and there's no longer, none of the teams are actually in business anymore. You probably said, yeah, it wasn't what you'd call a Hall of Fame career, but
you probably put them under when you started your own pro league.
Yeah, that's what it. They moved me around so much. I said, damn, I'm going to start my own league. Yeah, it was it was the best thing to play. We all love to play, but when you're not a good player, I try to use that period of time just to kind of, learn the business, if you will, and figured if I was going to have any future in the game, it wasn't going to be on the ice. And you're right. You probably couldn't plan, when I was playing that we were going to get involved with a group that started a league and did that for a number of years, but great experience. And, that level that that at that point, the ECHL it was called the East Coast League back then, was just starting out. So I'm starting to date myself a little bit.
Was it right from co-founding it was the Western Professional Hockey League, right?
Yeah.
So was it right from co-founding that and being a part of that to becoming the assistant in Phoenix at the time? Was that the jump?
Yeah, that's what it was, Ryan. I played a little bit, and then an old coach of mine, Rick Kozebak, was starting. He was looking at starting a league, and we put together a group to sort of really fund a exploratory stage, if you will, just running around Texas and looking at, basically at that time, rodeo barns, if they wanted to put hockey in them. And the
Peter North Stars.
What's that?
The Peter North Stars.
That's right. And it really started, the league started up with 6 teams in Texas, grew into, I can't remember how many at the time, maybe 16 teams, 18 teams throughout Texas, Louisiana, down in the southern US. And I did that for 12 years, and then, was introduced to, had a relationship with the late great Pierre Lacroix. And Eric Lacroix was a good friend. They were owners in one of the leagues, one of the teams in the leagues. And it was through Pierre that he had put me in touch with Don Maloney. When Don at that time became the manager in Phoenix, and interviewed with Don. I said at the time, after the fact, after Don hired me, with the WPHL, and we later became the Central Hockey League, merged with the Central Hockey League, that our offices were in Phoenix. So I think the key thing for Don hiring me was he didn't have to pay any moving expense. I was local.
He could squeeze the shit out of a beaver.
We ran it a lot of, as Biz knows, we were running on a little bit of a tight budget there in Phoenix.
You could squeeze a nickel so tight the beaver will shit.
And so he said, hey, no moving expense. You're in.
But I tell you what, though, he was excellent at what he did. Like in Arizona, when I was there, like how he was able to win trades all the time. He didn't have a very big budget, and like getting guys to fill in roles for cheap. So you must have learned a ton from him while kind of like, learning to eventually become a general manager.
100%. I said all the time, and unless you were there, and Biz, you were there during those times, like the uncertainty, it was daily, right? And for what he was able to do, leading that organization and sort of putting it all, not allowing that to affect the group. He was able to put together playoff teams, and, we were at the bottom of the scale in terms of the payroll every year. He brought Tip in. I thought Tip did a marvelous job with the group there. But it was, you learned a lot, you learned a lot on how to, make the most of what you got, and you have to make smart decisions. And really I owe everything to Don of bringing me in there and and learning from him and giving me an opportunity to, work in the league. And it was a great group. We had a great group of people there, from the coaching staff led by Tip to the training staff, Stan and the crew there. It's and when you go through all the things that we had gone through in that time, where it felt like every year, the team was moving here, the team was moving here, and uncertainty all the time, it sort of built that bond. And, to this day, Chris O'Hearn, who's now in Minnesota, you feel a bond with that group. So those were fun days.
Remember we were at the sushi place with the rich people. We thought we were going to buy the team. And like, next thing you know, they were just not even involved anymore. It was like, hey,
it felt
thanks for the Nobu.
Yeah.
Like missing Ed chewed with his mouth open.
It felt like every couple of months, there's a new rumor that so-and-so's coming in, or there's a new owner coming in. So there was a lot of uncertainty, and the league was awesome in terms of, they would give us a budget and gave us the support we needed, and away we went. So
negotiating with my agent at the time must have prepared you for all these major deals that you're doing.
Well, Biz, I was gonna ask, can you bring the listeners and myself and RA into the room when the Pittsburgh Penguins put Paul Bissonnette on waivers, and you guys are like, let's get this guy, let's throw a claim in. Like, what was the thought behind that?
You know what? I remember it because, and again, I'll give all the credit to Don Maloney, because, you're going through the preseason, and we like Paul. We wanted to add a little bite to our lineup. Yep. And I was out watching games, and we're like, okay, we were going to trade a pick. And I said, okay, if we can get this guy, I think he'll help us. And Don was like, just be patient. I think he's going to go on waivers. And sure enough, he went on waivers, and we got him, and we brought him in, and I didn't, before he had this, huge media career. Now, Paul was he was a really great addition to our team. Not only did he give us, he made everybody a little braver on the ice, but he brought a lot of juice to our team, like a lot of around our room. There was never a quiet moment. I do remember negotiating Paul's contract. I think we got you, and then you played you had a year left, and then who's your agent? Was it Mark Guy? I think it was Mark Guy. So I remember getting the call finally, we're like, okay, we want to sign Paul. And I really felt it probably would be about a 30-second conversation. Here's what we're going to offer. Yeah, we'll take it. So, Mark's experienced guy calls back, and they said, well, yeah, I appreciate the offer, but when you look at the points per 60 and you look at this, and you had all these analytics, and I was like,
that's where analytics started. That phone call.
Biz's basement.
There's really nothing per 60 that we need to look at here on this negotiation. Here's what the number is.
Punches per 60.
I should have got Jonesy as my agent.
They're like sips of water on the bench per 60.
Yeah, Old Town.
That's amazing, Biz. Did you know that the analytics were going to be brought up?
Old Town Starbucks coffee dates per 60 minutes.
Yeah. And after numerous calls, we were able to wrestle that file to the ground, and
how many 750 times 2?
Yeah, raunchy tweets per 60.
Yeah, I was going to say, how many HR meetings did the team have to have?
Well,
with Nasty 1.0.
Oh, I had about 4 or 5, and every time I'd come out, you'd be making a bagel, looking, giggling.
Well, I do remember that was because that was the start of social media, I think, back then, right?
Yeah.
Or the start of Twitter or whatever. But I remember I think it was Rich Nairn. Rich Nairn had to ride shotgun and just sort of, he had his own personal escort to make sure, like, okay, you watch everything Paul, sends out. And I think he met with Don, and he said, hey, Paul, we can't do that. Okay. Yeah. And then about a week later, I saw you walking back in there, your head down. Okay, I apologize. We won't do that again. We won't send one out like that.
Yeah, 4 or 5.
I remember Rich was on the social media police for you.
Well, because when I originally stopped doing it was because of Mark Guy. He goes, buddy, you gotta, after the Kovalchuk one, he's like, you gotta shut this thing down. So everybody thought it was the organization. I think Rich went to Donnie, and Donnie's like, I don't even know what the fuck Twitter is. Like, what are you talking about?
Well, none of us knew. We were trying to remember, like, what is that? It's like is he sending texts out? I thought he was sending texts out. I didn't know what the heck.
You're like, not another Brett Favre dick pic.
So I just said, what? Yeah. So it was this, learned a lot about the start of social media with Biz.
Well, thanks for funding the bottle service in Vegas during those years. It's much
The
appreciated.
weekend trips.
Yeah, the AHL deals were bringing me to where RA goes. What is it? Hedonism in Jamaica.
Hedonism too.
The all inclusive.
So 2014 become the GM of the Flames. Had you maybe been in the running for other GM jobs after a few years as the assistant in Phoenix, or was that your first go round of having a legit chance and you got it in Calgary?
No, I'd interviewed a couple times. And then really in Calgary was, I had a relationship with Brian Burke. I knew Berkey a little bit going back. He'd brought me to camp to break in some equipment back in the day when I was playing. So I got my 3 days in camp when Berkey was, I think, the assistant GM out there. And I'd always stayed in touch with him and, saw him a lot as you're working in the business and on the scouting trail. And when Brian came here, Brian came as the president of hockey ops year prior, and then the job opened up. And at the end of our year, 1 year, he had phoned over to Donnie and asked if I could interview, and went up here and interviewed with Brian, and was fortunate enough to get the job and been here ever since.
Being from Penticton, were you a Flames fan or were you a Canucks fan?
You know what? I was from Penticton, but I grew up in Vancouver. So growing up, I was a Canuck fan. But you know what? Even those days, I remember they had some great series against each other. Back, I think it was in '89 when the Flames won the cup. The first series was against Vancouver, and we always joke. Pep scored the goal, and was he in the crease? Him and Joel Otto, but those were even back in the '80s. There, Calgary had such great teams, and we're fortunate here. There's a lot of the alumni that stick around. It's a strong alumni here. Run by Jamie McCowan and a lot of the guys from the '89 team around here, and you get the chance to visit with them and connect with them. And I joke with them. I always saw them got to play when I was growing up. So they're all much older than me.
Brett, I know when you got the job, Berkey made it clear that it's the GM's team to run, but you think it's changed a bit with maybe other teams where it's a lot more collaborative and maybe the GM isn't the final say like it used to be?
For sure. You need a strong staff. I mean, like the stuff that we went through this summer is a perfect example. That wasn't just myself. I mean, you got to have a strong staff to, when you get into a situation where you got to move quick on things that have the information and have the knowledge. And, I'm very fortunate here to have a really strong staff. We talked, Donnie Maloney is here with me. We've got Chris Snow, you guys know, who's a real bright guy, Craig Conroy, Brad Pascal, Bob Murray is doing some scouting with us, Derek McKinnon, Steve Plow, our scouting staff. So it's an experienced group. But I think the job is really big now. It's a big business, and you need to have depth, and you need to have experience, but you need to have, smart, intelligent people. And I'm fortunate to have those.
You talked about Biz and his social media antics. Now you have a different guy that tends to go viral occasionally. That's the head coach with these amazing post-practice, post-game press conferences. And it's full-blown comedy without really trying to be funny. Are you ever kind of like, oh boy, what's he going to say after a tough loss? Or are you more as interested as all the fans are in hearing what he says post-game?
Yeah, I know the thing with Daryl is none of it's scripted, none of it's scripted. He's always going to be direct and truthful. And, some days I'm like, okay, if a game didn't go well, how's this going to come out? Sometimes though, it's the wins.
Yes.
And that's, I think really the brilliance of Daryl. He doesn't want to, you always are going to be a little bit on edge, and keep everybody on edge and keep everybody dialed in. So when maybe you're going through a little turbulence, he makes sure that you're, that's the time to maybe not push as hard. And then when things are going well, he doesn't want to make sure he doesn't want you to think that things are comfortable and easy. So, but he's yeah, he's had some great ones in those post-game press conferences, and I think sometimes the media is a little bit nervous to ask him too many questions.
There's people. There's like sorry, Biz. There's like people who can't stand some old school type of hockey ways. And one thing I think is great that should never go away is what Sutter's into is that like never get too comfortable. I feel like he never wants anyone to be that comfortable, and that kind of breeds competition and success. It's interesting you say that. And for me, the best was saying that it'd be a quick 8 days for whoever got the wild card had to play Colorado, and sure as shit, Nashville gets swept. So he was dead. He was bang on with that one.
Well, I think the misconception too, guys, with Daryl is this guy's a brilliant hockey mind, right? Don't fool yourself. A lot of the things that he says there is he knows exactly what he's saying. But in terms of studying the game, in terms of his preparation, in terms of the amount of just even the amount of data that he goes through and not only analyzing matchups, but analyzing player performance, team performance, and he's got such a clear view of what it takes to have success at this league, both as an individual and as a team. And, he demands that of his teams, but I think accountability and being demanding I think those are good things. And, he is that of his team. He's fair. And he's honest. When you've done well, he's going to tell you. When you haven't done well, he'll tell you that too. But I think that's what players want, is honesty, and he's blunt about it. So I think he's one of the best coaches, certainly one of the game's great coaches in the history. And I think he's a Hall of Fame coach, and we're lucky to have him.
Did you guys become aware that he was interested in coaching again? Because he's living fairly close to downtown Calgary, right? So did he reach out? It was a job his if he wanted it?
Well, I talked to him, Biz, a few times over the years about coming in, and at the time that I hired him, he was consulting and working with Anaheim, and consulting with the coaches down there and working with them. And I'd gone to him before, and it just wasn't the right time for him. His farm here that he is about 4 hours, 3.5, 4 hours from Calgary. And I just think he's an Alberta guy, and this is where he should be at. So, when I went to him, I guess it's a year and a half ago now, 2 years ago now, that, he was really interested, wanted a couple of days to think about it, wanted to talk to Wanda and his wife Wanda, and made the decision to come. And, as all these coaches are now, they're when the amount of hours these guys put in, they're all in.
Oh, it's fucking nuts.
It's a demanding job, and he wanted to make sure that he was ready, wanting to do that again. And because he's all in, and certainly was, and we're the benefactors for it. Because like I said, I think he's done an unbelievable job with us, and rightly so. Was the coach of the year last year.
Did he ever make you go to the farm and work a day to get the contract signed?
A little different than I thought I was going to have to go out there. I mean, but he's like that farm, like he farms, like there's lots of times to get a hold of him in the summer, and he's haying, or he's got a lot of land up there in Viking, and he's got a big outfit there. So, but I haven't gone up there yet. No.
One of the most recent comments was about Tkachuk. You were the guy that drafted him. You obviously signed him to that extension. Was that one more shocking than the Johnny situation and him not wanting to return? And, how long was the conversation between you and him on the way out? And I'm sure it was hard on him as well.
Yeah. And, a lot of those bits, as you can appreciate, I think a lot of that, like is supposed to and should stay private. I would say, like, I got a strong relationship with him. He's a kid you drafted. He's a terrific player. And like I said, he got to a stage where he made that decision. Certainly I would have, at the time, we would like to not have him make that decision, but totally understood it. Him and I had a great conversation. He's a hell of a player, and Florida got a real good player. We think we got real good players back. Hopefully it works out for everybody.
I always wonder, when guys are going into the season with 1 year left, like say we're looking at Mackenzie Weegar now, and there's certain guys who are open to discussion throughout the year. And then some players say, all right, well, if we don't get it done before the year, I don't want to talk. If that's the case with guys, are you still reaching out to the agent, or are you just making sure you keep it out of the player's mind? Or does it actually just shut off completely for even you and the agent discussing deals?
Well, yeah, everybody's a little bit different, Ryan. I think at the end of the day, especially in today's landscape, it's difficult, right? Because we've had minimal cap growth, and there's been such a squeeze on the cap, and the top players are always going to get their money. I think in those cases, you try hard to, you get an understanding of what everybody wants. And I understand that not only from the player standpoint, but from the team standpoint, and especially in Canada. I thought, last year, we spoke with Johnny's guy, we've all made a decision that we weren't going to talk about it publicly during the year, because it just can become a distraction. The amount these guys are in front of the media, you just don't need to be answering that question every day. It's like Groundhog Day. So we're not going to talk about it, but you have a pretty good idea where both camps are, usually. And, if there's a way to bridge the gap, or if you feel you've got, something that's going to get a deal done. I know everybody says, well, the guy's got, whatever player it is. I'm not talking about any player specifically, but guy's got a player a year left, go get him signed. Well, the deal's got to work for both sides, right? It's not just as easy to say, okay, well, let's just get him signed. So I think if you're sort of within striking distance, and you know where the other side's at, and if that means you're going to go into the season a little bit and eventually get there, you'll continue. You'll always have conversations with the agent. You try to keep, you keep it quiet, and you don't want to get the player's mind, straying too far from just concentrating on playing and helping the team win. So, there's ways to manage those. And I think everybody does a fairly good job of it. But you like to get business done as quickly as you can.
Right. We've heard a couple stories the last couple of years. Guys get traded. They kind of maybe F you their GM or something like that. Have you ever had a similar experience? You don't have to name anybody, but guys get pissed off that they get traded.
I'm sure they've, when they walk out of my office, they have many times, but yeah, I honestly, I try to keep it pretty, like, everybody's got a different style. I think you got to, you just do what's natural for yourself. I've always had a real strong relationship with my players. I try to talk to them a lot. The coach is the one that makes decisions on who plays and how much and everything else. But for everything else, you try to be there for them. If there's issues at home, or if there's areas of their game that you think you can help them with, or being a sounding board, getting to know about their families. So I've always tried to, and there's, it's tough. It's tough moving players when you have a relationship with them, but those are, it's tough today, when you make cuts, because you know how much a player puts into trying to make a team and all the rest of it. And when you move a guy, I'm real conscious that you're not just, it's not fantasy hockey. You're moving a guy, you're up, he's got a family most times, he's got wife and kids, and, you're turning their life on the ear. But we've all signed up for this, but I think there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. You got to, and there's times you have to make those decisions. So I'm sure there's more than enough players that have walked out of here and had a few choice words for me. But for the most part, we've had strong relationships, and guys maybe aren't happy, but you try to just be real honest and say, this is part of the business, and try to get them to understand, or at least just be honest. Sometimes they'll never understand, but here's what we're doing. And, it's part of what we all signed up for.
How many hours a week do GMs work? Like, are you on 80 hours a week, you think?
Imagine he's like 4. I barely even do anything.
Yeah.
I was like Lou Lamoriello this summer. Wasn't doing nothing.
You never shut it off. I mean, you try, the old, that's probably that, it's hard. Let's not kid anybody. We all signed up for it. We know there shouldn't be nobody, feeling sorry for everybody in these jobs, but it's hard to shut it off, right? You
got to be getting a couple massages a week, right?
24/7, you're kind of always thinking about it, right? And that's just part of the game. So you're there's enough hours here, and you try to get home, and like I said, I've got one daughter now that's moved out So she's down in Austin, University of Texas. She's a big Flames fan, but she's a Longhorn now. And my youngest is at home still, but they remind me just to kind of, hey, you're at home, snap out of it.
Be more present.
Be more present. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think you get your motor from your old man? And for some of those who are listening, Jim Treliving, he founded Boston Pizza, or I think there was a couple stores.
Yeah.
It started the Dragon's Den, which later became the Shark Tank. They basically ripped it off your old man, and he's done a ton of other stuff. Yeah, he was always, that's a good way to put it. He was always going 100 miles an hour. Still is. He's 81 years old. And, but yeah, that sort of the motor from it probably comes from him for sure. And that was us growing up. He was a cop. He was an RCMP police officer, a cop to start, and then got into the pizza business and did a really good job growing his business and is really successful. But it doesn't come by accident either. Put a lot of hard work into it, and a lot of time. And that's like anything else. What you guys do, you put a lot of time and effort into what you do. We all love what we do. So it's not, it doesn't feel like work, but there are days like this summer, there were some moments where like, okay, this isn't what it was. I didn't know it was going to be all this in a bag of nuts, but it was good.
Before we let you go, I got one more, and that's it must have been a relief. You got the Mangiapane deal done under $6 million cap hit, and it was before arbitration. So I'm curious, as a GM, do you not want to go to arbitration just as much as the player doesn't want to because of how personal it gets and how the relationship it kind of be fucked up after?
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes that gets a little bit overblown. Okay. I think now it's part of the process, right? And at the end of the day, say players, I mean, that's part of the right they have, right? And so when they file, that's, you have that right. Part of the process, you have to go through it. But I think if everybody's being honest, yeah, you'd like to avoid arbitration if you can. You usually, and it's not just for, we've got no problem going. I say to players, we've got no problem going to the arbitrator. You'd like to figure it out and negotiate it. I think sometimes that process is an inflationary process, quite frankly, the arbitration process. So you'd always like to try to have a negotiated settlement. But for young guys that haven't gone through that, it can be a little startling that, at the end of the day, their side's going to talk about how wonderful the player is, and the team side is going to point out some of the misgivings, but you try to get through it, and beforehand you talked about it. It's there's a business side to this game. Sometimes it's not perfect or fun, but for the most part you can get through it fairly easy. But I think everybody would agree if you've got a chance to negotiate a settlement, you like to do it. Sometimes you got to go through it.
We lie to our fans. We tell them it gets ruthless in there, like your mama jokes, like it's just like anything goes.
Yeah. Well, there's been a couple stories.
Like, what does my penis size have to do with anything?
Yeah, it's usually not too gory.
Well, I don't know.
RA's got to have a couple more down there. No, RA's got a couple more. We can't let you go this quick.
Yeah, kind of the other side of the coin, not guys telling you to F off or whatever, but maybe when you saying goodbye to a player, maybe it's the opposite end of the emotional spectrum. Maybe a guy like Giordano or Monahan, where they've been with the team for so long, where maybe, it's a tough thing for both sides.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of that. I mean, the Gio one was real difficult. He was a special player, special guy, and a guy I leaned on a lot. I would talk to him a lot about our team. And it was a unique situation because it was the expansion draft. And, so we looked at a bunch of different, things to try to prevent Gio from going. But as he knew, and we talked a lot about it, it's a business too. We couldn't put ourselves in, where Gio was at his career. There was a limit to what we could do to protect him. And I knew, as we sort of got to the end, I knew that Ronnie really valued Gio as he should, as a player and a leader and everything that he was going to bring to Seattle. And that last call was a tough one. Gio and I talked, a couple times a day for a few weeks leading up to them making their decision. And finally, when Ronnie had called me and told me that Mark was their selection, that, and the finality was there, that was a tough call. So you do have those. Sean's another one. You've had players, they're all tough. Like I said, they're all tough. You know what players put into it, but certainly players that you've had for a longer period of time. You get to know their families, you get to know you get to know them real well. It's difficult. So yeah, those aren't easy conversations.
I guess one other one is second guessing yourself. Is that a part of the job that always stays there, or you just kind of make peace with that early in your career and let things fall where they do?
No, I mean, listen, Brian Burke.
He just flips a coin. He just flips a coin. All right. That's how he makes his decision. That's how you were doing it in Zona.
Yeah. Throw the dart. Where does it land? And, but Berkey had great advice. He said, at the end of the day, this job, you're walking the tightrope with no net, and you have to, you're going to make a lot of decisions. There are going to be a lot of tough ones. So there's certainly some things. I think what you have to do, RA, is you get all the information. I said before, it's important to have really smart people and people that don't just think the way you think, quite to the contrary, challenge you, and you got to, disagree and have those arguments and those debates, and ultimately you have to make the decision, and you have to live with it. You always go back. I always go back and always look at your process of how you came to decision making and the process that you have. So those are all things that you do, all the time. At the end of a year, sit back and look at how you came to a decision, how you got to it, ways that you can improve your process. But ultimately, when you sit in that chair, there becomes a time. It's like getting up to the plate. Eventually, you got to take the bat off the shoulder and take a swing, and you can't be, and the difficult part sometimes when you make a decision, it doesn't go well. You got to dig back in that box.
Just point the finger.
And
you just point the finger.
Just take another, or do that. Or just say,
Hey, I actually got the chance to ask Stevie Y a question on TNT, and he alluded to finding a way to decompress by ripping the bong. What do you do to relax?
Well, I used to be a little bit of golf, but I don't even get to do that anymore. I know.
Thanks, Kachuk.
We get out usually in the summer. We got a little place out in the lake, so now getting out in the lake is a little bit of time to decompress. But just getting away around my girls, getting home. Got a couple of dogs that go chase the ball, so anything just to kind of keep the mind a little fresh. But at the end of the day, we're like you guys. You're dealing with, you're watching your team every night, or you're watching somebody, all the other games. So hopefully when it slows down this summer, you get a little time away.
Biz, before we let him go, I took out of this, he's working his balls off, making Calgary a better team, but mostly he was willing to go to Montreal and have a steak and wine with Huberdeau, kicking his feet on going to the Sutter Farm to bale some hay. He hasn't been up there yet.
There's too much work there. That's real work. We're going to stay away from that. I go in there, Dale hand you a pair of gloves and get out, and that's a lot of manual labor.
See you in 10 hours, Brad.
Yeah. You're wearing shit kickers at the press conferences. Smelling like manure.
Thank
buddy,
you so much, though.
Thank you so much for your time. I'm so happy for you. You deserve all the success. I mean, you haven't lost the fucking trade since you started. I'm sure you learned everything from Donnie, and we wish you all the best. And I'm willing to remake the bet if you can tell me and sell me right now on the fact that you guys are going to beat the wheels off Witt and his stupid left ear and the Oilers this season.
Well, they got a hell of a team, but I appreciate the support. Biss. So we welcome you on board here.
We'll be in discussion.
Yeah. That's GM code for fuck them. We're going to fucking shit all over them. Bring it to the Saddle Dome, bitches.
Big thanks once again to Brad Treliving for joining us. I want to let you know his interview is also brought to you by Skrill. Coming soon to the Barstool Sportsbook. Skrill is a digital wallet perfect for gamblers. Skrill is for money movers and makers, allowing you to instantly deposit and withdraw your money. Sophisticated gamblers use Skrill to manage their bankroll, whether they are playing games like poker or betting on their favorite sports. It's one of the safest and most secure digital wallets, and once it's part of the Barstool Sportsbook, you'll be able to deposit and withdraw instantly without limits. Skrill also lets you transfer money to another Skrill member and take advantage of some of the best money transfer rates around. Make sure you sign up at skrill.com/Barstool to create your free account and complete the account verification by clicking follow the game after registering so you can start using their digital wallet today. All right, boys, moving right along. We're going to head over to the Central Division, and we're going to start off with the Stanley Cup champion Colorado Avalanche, who finished last year with 119 points and beat Tampa Bay 4-2 for the Cup. Their Cup odds are plus 450 this year, a little lower than 5-1. New faces they brought in, goalie Alexander Georgiev. Yeah, speak much. Alexander Georgiev and Evan Rodriguez. They said bye to Nazem Kadri, Darcy Kemper, Andrei Burakovsky, and Jack Johnson. After finally reaching the promised land, locking up their core, they're looking to repeat with no Kadri and a new goalie in Georgiev. But who's going to replace Kadri as the second center, you think? Comfer, Newhook, Rodriguez, or somebody else going to come out of the woodwork here?
I think you're going to see Alex Newhook take a big step up. In talking to everyone who's played against this kid in college, scouted him, I mean, this could be a true game breaker. And it's really tough right now because they're starting the season without Landeskog, and the question of not having Kadri, especially with the year he had, that is going to be a really tough kind of thing for them to overcome. But it doesn't really slow them down that much in my mind. They're that good. They're that deep. And even with the ability to bring in Newhook, it's like you look at the defense, their D is so good. It's crazy, though. They lost the goalie as well. So there's a lot of different things happening there. But even with the Landeskog injury to start the year and Kadri being gone, I don't think there's one fan, media member, pundit out there who doesn't think they have a realistic chance to just go back-to-back and win this division with ease.
We don't need to overthink this one.
Yeah, if they don't repeat, Biz, what would the reason be?
Maybe, I don't know, maybe the only reason would be if they can't really replace that second line center. And I think the reason that they were so comfortable saying goodbye to Kadri, given with what the cap hit was and where they were going to be jammed up, or I guess they could just play like the Oilers, 7 million over, was because of the performance that Comfer put on, not only in the second half of the season, but in playoffs. Like, he was heavily relied upon, created a ton of energy, and really played in all situations, maybe other than power play. So I see them very much as a contender. The only thing really holding them back would just be if Calgary and Edmonton are able to get over that hump. And you see great teams like Tampa, they're able to replenish. So I see that the way this team, the way they work, the way that the top guys prepare and drive the bus, I don't see them taking a step back. Nate Dogg wants more than one cup. He's hungry, and he's going to earn that fucking big bump in salary he got, although he still got one more year at that nice number.
Biz, you mentioned that, Calgary, Edmonton, but it's like Minnesota and St. Louis are so good too. And when you asked them what could be the one thing if they don't win, you still got to remember how impossible it seems to go back to back, right? I mean, like, I know Tampa and the Penguins, but before that, it was the Red Wings in the late 90s. It's like, it's just so difficult. This team's a wagon. They're set to win another one, I'm sure, but just going back to back is such a grind.
Yeah, and I was going to joke about the fact that they could probably throw Merles in net and still get the job done. But
no, he's losing weight.
Oh, okay. But what was the big reason for the back-to-back for Tampa? Vasilevsky. Yeah. They just don't have that dominance in net, so it will be a lot more difficult for Colorado to repeat than I think that Tampa.
Merles, quick question for you: does Macau win the Norris again?
Yeah, you can't bet against him doing that. I'm worried about maybe another Eric Johnson. I hope he's still not hungover. It seemed like he partied pretty hard this summer with the cup. So that's my only worry of the whole team, a little hungover in the start of the season here.
All right, moving right along. The St. Louis Blues up next. They had 109 points last season. They lost in the second round to the Avs 4-2. The Blues are 25-1 to win the Stanley Cup. They brought in Noah Chari and Thomas Greiss for the backup goaltender. They said bye to David Perron and Ville Husso, their other goalie. The window's still open for the 19 champs, I'd say. They didn't really have to do much to this team, but really replace Perron's offense, which we'll see what happens there. Obviously, they locked up Kyrou and Thomas for the long haul there, both over a point per game last year. Huge contributors. Biz, do they have what it takes to beat the Avs this year? I know it's sort of a round-around question, but what do you think?
Well, I mean, you just talked on the parity out west. Like, there's a bunch of teams that could potentially knock Colorado off. But as far as St. Louis is concerned, an analytic darling, it's unfortunate that they had to get rid of Husso as far as trade over to Detroit. I think that the playoff performance by Binnington solidified that he is going to be their guy moving forward. Not saying they could have moved his salary over by any means, but you talk about a guy who needs to have a huge bounce back year, although he wasn't terrible last year, and he's up for a contract, Tarasenko. And I think that he could potentially get another 40-goal season. Another guy who's up for contract, Ryan O'Reilly. So that's not a bad thing. When you get Russians playing in contract here, that's a good thing, right, Merles? You could be the first one to tell us that. But as far as top to bottom, an awesome team that's very well coached, a tough barn to play in, no brainer that they're making playoffs, and wouldn't surprise me if they made a run to the cup again.
It's tough to add to that because it's pretty much spot on. I just think back, nobody even came nearly as close as they did to beating Colorado as them. So it's like they have enough there to go on a run. Binnington is a big part of that team. That's such a obvious statement by me, but you saw him find his form. And the only question being, the only, thing you got to wonder as a fan is Husso was so good. And now with him in Detroit, right, there isn't that other guy. I mean, Thomas Greiss, I think, is in there, but it's like the pressure's really on Binnington. He was able to not be the starter for a little while and find the game with, I'm sure, off-ice stuff, practice, video, because at the time, he wasn't always starting them. And then now it's like pressure's back on. There isn't that guy that can fill in. I mean, I know Greiss is a solid backup goalie, but, Husso showed that he was a true starter, it seemed like, right? So there's a lot of pressure there on that tender.
Coke can cock.
Yeah, this team could either go on a cup run or get knocked out in the first round, depending on who they play. That I feel it's like a coin flip with them.
Yeah, got him in the playoffs, no doubt.
Yeah,
if Greiss has even a little bit of blood flow in net, there's no way you can get a puck by him.
He has that big of a cannon?
Absolute wrench.
Didn't know that.
Wrench.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Merles, what's the Blues' biggest weakness as a team?
Blues' biggest weakness, I would say the losing Montgomery is a big loss for their forward unit going to your Bruins. And I don't see many other weaknesses. Besides, the backup goalie would be my only real concern.
Yeah. All right. Moving right along. Minnesota Wild. A nice regular season for them. 113 points. They lost in the first round to the Blues, 4-2. They're 21-1 to win the Stanley Cup this year. They brought in Sam Steele and Philip Gustafson for a goaltender. They said bye to Kevin Fiala, Jordy Ben, Nick Delorier, Nick Bjugstad, and Dmitry Kulikov. The Wild thought they were turning a franchise corner last season, and then the playoffs came, and they got bounced in the first round yet again. They also lost Kevin Fiala. His 85 points is going to be very tough to replace, but Matt Boldy should be able to get some of them. They do need Marc-Andre Fleury to be better in the playoffs this year, provided they get there. But you got Spurgeon, Dumba, Brodin, Middleton, Goligoski, and Merrill all back on D. Pretty solid D. Dumba is in the last year of his deal. You might hear his name in some trade rumors. And then, of course, you got Kaprizov, who presumably should get even better this year. But if all else fails, Biz, they could just beat up the referees like Brandon Baddock did the other night. Did you see that shot I included? He was fighting kid on Dallas Stars, Jared Rosberg. He punched the friggin' linesman right in the head. I mean, he missed a shot. It wasn't like he was aiming for him. Yeah, he popped them right in the head. But anyways, Biz, is this the year the Wild finally get out of the first round?
So what's difficult and why they couldn't really add much in free agency is they're now in cap hell for the next couple of years. And you talked about turning that corner as an organization. I had such high hopes for them going into playoffs. I think I even picked them to beat St. Louis in that first round. But given the strength of the West, man, I think that they're going to be potentially a wild card team if they do get in. I just think that everybody else who is relevant in that conference did their job in free agency and or had a loaded squad. So they, in my opinion, took a step back as far as keeping up with the rest of the pack. It's going to have to take, a few homegrown talents to take that next step. Kaprizov's going to have to play to his fine form, and they're just going to have to kind of play that physical bully hockey that they got from Greenway, the Folignos, and guys like that in the lineup. So I do have them making playoffs, and the reason I do is probably because I don't have another team who's in cap hell that we're going to get to in this division in a little bit. But I don't see them making any type of significant noise come playoff time. Maybe a second round, but they just don't have the squad.
Biz, you mentioned homegrown talent. I just wanted to jump in here. I think one guy I think everyone should keep an eye on is Marco Rossi, the 2020 ninth overall pick. The way it's going there, I mean, I think, like you said, they're in cap jail. They need some help homegrown. I think Marco Rossi can be that guy.
The backstory on that kid, G?
He got sick, didn't he?
Yeah, dude. He was the 9th pick in 2020, and he got COVID, and it fucking crushed him. Like, I think he ended up with a heart condition after it, just a really long bout. But last year, ripped it up in the AHL, and apparently in camp has looked great. So it's one of those. Kaprizov comes over, is a stud, legit superstar. Matt Boldy last year, you saw him, dude.
He's
got
got
a player that kid is. He's only going to get better. And now this year, it could be Rossi jumping in. So that's a great call, G.
Wow. I'm getting a little horned up to the squad now. With the
Biz, it's tough. I mean, 85 points, Fiala, they
I know. And he was a stud in the second half of the year, and a big reason for that playoff push. So they're going to have to get guys on entry-level deals making huge impacts if they are going to get to that second round. All right. How long have they never been to the second round in their franchise history?
They have, not recently. I could have clarified.
Okay.
Yeah, in the recent history, they certainly haven't been, but it's been a long time since they've been out of the first round.
I'm not the historian.
Yeah, Merles, what's your take on the Minnesota Wild this year?
Yeah, I'll be on them a lot this year, especially at home. That building gets rocking. Get Kaprizov twirling around with it, and I like watching that team a lot. I'm excited for them.
Yeah, and as far as buying out Parise and Suda, it was it was a necessary move that Billy Guerin had to do. I mean, he had to bring a new culture and he had to bring a new locker room, and he just could not leave those guys on the team. I mean, I guess Lansing a Boyle is probably maybe a good comparison. It was like
I have no dog. All right, I have no dog in the fight, but we're going to shift over to Dallas at some point. Completely different in a sense. If you're saying we need to change the culture up where there was maybe some problems internally, as opposed maybe a couple guys making big dough who aren't having that same impact that they once were. So I don't know when we're moving over to Dallas, but I keep kind of
well, you know what, Biz?
foreshadowing.
For you, we'll do it right now. How about that? Yeah. Dallas Stars, 98 points last year. They lost in the first round 4-3 to the Calgary Flames in an absolute classic thanks to Jake Ottinger's unbelievable goaltending. Dallas 47-1 to win the Cup. They have a new coach in Pete DeBoer. They also brought in Mason Marchment and Colin Miller. They waved goodbye to John Klingberg. And gotta give a little shout out to the Warthog.
Russia.
Alexander Radulov back to Russia. Warthog, we hardly knew ye. It's another team, Biz. I think they can either be a top 3 seed or chasing the wild card late in the season. It's a little bit of a coin flip. Jake Ottinger and the unsigned Jason Robertson are huge pieces of the future of this team. Obviously, we're still waiting to sign Robertson. On D, you got Heiskanen, Lindell, Suda, Miller, likely the top 4 with Klingberg now gone. Marchment should fill the Warthog role. Warthog didn't have a great season last year. Our buddy Kevin Weeks says he can't see a Robertson deal that comes in below $8.4 million. Again, right now they get 6.3 in cap space. If Hudobin goes to the AHL, that would give him another 3.3. But what kind of bump will Pete DeBoer provide for this team, Biz?
Well, I mean, he's a very successful coach, has had success everywhere he's gone. I think he's taken 3. Has he taken 3 teams to the Cup Finals? New Jersey. He did with
Jersey,
San Jose.
He's 2 teams in.
Okay. So he wasn't with Vegas when they went to the Cup final. That was my bad there. So yeah, I think that he's great, and I think that he's a player's coach, and I think that if there's one guy who can fix things there, it's him. As far as the top heavy scoring is a little bit of my concern. If they're going to make playoffs, I think that Seguin and Ben have to play to about 75% of what their cap hit is. And if they can get, 60, 65 points out of these guys, if Seguin can get, 25, 30 goals and get back to where he was when he ended up signing that deal, and same with Ben, and then also provide a good two-way game. That's the thing about this team is, like, I don't think they score a ton, but they do play well defensively. Of course, Ottinger puts a Band-Aid on a lot of problems. Getting him at $4 million a year, I don't know how the fuck they did that, given with what Spencer Knight's making. But that would be the one way that they can make playoffs if he stands on his head and has another Vezina caliber season. Their back end, I mean, they lost Klingberg, not great defensively, but I mean, I don't know who else is going to pick up the ice
New
time.
York, Lundqvist. He's looked pretty good, I guess. I guess he was paired with Heiskanen for a little bit.
Yeah,
but he's not going to be Klingberg like offensively.
He's not going to be throwing the pump fakes out.
No, the ankle breaker, the and one defenseman from the NHL.
I assume they get this Robertson deal done before the season starts, and there's no way he should come in under $8 million. Was it Kevin Weeks or maybe it was on 32 Thoughts? They're saying they're looking at either like a 4 or a 6-year term potentially. And I mean, Elliott's talking to all these GMs. So if there's anyone who knows, it's him. But look at the number of how much offense he provided their team. And when he was injured last year during that certain time, their offense dried up like a nun's cunt.
The owner's got to be I mean, is it Lights or no? Who's the guy that's always speaking out, ripping on fucking Seguin and Ben?
Gagliardi.
Gagliardi, the owner, you mean, right?
Yeah, I don't think he was the one. I thought it was like Jim.
No, he sent the president to say something.
Yes. Well, imagine though being the owner. It's like, it must be so tough you don't have this young stud signed. He wants the money he pretty much deserves based on the two deals, especially in St. Louis with Thomas and Cairo. And then you got guys who you're like upset with because through injuries and getting older, they're not the player they once was, and they're making all this dough. It's just such a frustrating time to be that GM. I guess silver lining being that they got Ottinger in at $4 million. How long is that deal?
3 years.
Yeah. So that's a gift, but I said it last week, so I don't really have anything else to say. Have no clue. Could be a lottery team, could be top 3 of the division. Do not have an idea what's going to happen. I need to see the first 20 games.
Same thing.
And without Robinson, Biz, you said, I mean, I don't know, man. Like this thing, you're saying it should be done before the season. We're like 8 days away.
I think the exact same thing happens as last year. They're fighting for a wild card spot. And I don't think they get in this year. Dallas ain't making playoffs. Not in that conference.
Merles, did the Stars exceed last year, get further than the first round?
No chance. I don't even know if they'll make the playoffs unless you asked me about a Norris Trophy winner, unless Heiskanen steps up and has a huge year, because like you guys talked about, Klingberg's points are gone and Ben and Seguin just keep going the wrong way. So I'm not too high on them. I'm big on their unders, all right.
Ooh,
that's what I'm big on.
Yeah, like we mentioned before, Ben and Seguin, $19.35 million combined cap hit for the next 3 years, and then they still got 2 more years of Sagan's deal after that. So, yeah, and we talked about it, the deals are essentially buyout proof. So, yeah, tough sledding ahead for Minnesota. But again, Billy Guerin had to do what he had to do. So, okay, before we move it along here, we want to share a word from our pals over at Cross Country Mortgage. We're known for having an opinion here. And to be honest, we're usually spot on. Here's our hottest new take. It's not a bad time to buy a home. In fact, for some, it could be the perfect time. Look, with low to no money down or refi options that let you draw a line of credit with lower interest than a credit card, Cross Country Mortgage has all your bases covered. Cross Country Mortgage listens, understands, and communicates throughout the entire loan process. It provides more loan options tailored to your financial capabilities. Their innovative technology focuses on what's important to fulfill your loan needs. It has faster closing times than the competition, stable monthly payments, and low to no down payments. Access your equity to use for larger expenses. from debt consolidation to home renovations. And who doesn't love some swag? Get a free Barstool and cross-country mortgage sweatshirt when you sign up to refi or get pre-approval, while supplies last, of course. When you need an outfield assist, cross-country mortgage has more than enough arm strength. See if you qualify today. Visit ccm.com/Barstool now. Cross Country Mortgage, LLC, NMLS 3029. All loans subject to underwriting approval. www.nmlsconsumeraccess.org. All right, moving right along. The Winnipeg Jets, 89 points last year, finished 11th in the conference. 65 to win the cup this year. They have a new head coach in Rick Bowness. Also brought in Sam Gagner and David Riddick, and then goaltender. They said goodbye to Paul Stastny and Eric Comrie. And again, this is another team. They were a contender 3 years ago, missed the playoffs last year. Solid D, great top six, Bonafide #1, but had a little controversy to start when Bonus came to town. Blake Wheeler had the C yanked. Lots of talk about clubhouse dissension last year. The Jets obviously looking for Bonus to reboot the team culture, which he's done that already. Team seems like it lost the swagger it had a couple years ago, but the roster stayed largely intact. The D, Morrissey, Schmidt, Pionk, Dillon, pretty good top four. What does this team need to do differently this year to return back to the playoffs?
I don't know. I loved their offseason last year. I obviously had no idea of the dissension within the locker room, which where there's smoke, there's fire. You hear enough stuff, and the Maurice quitting in the middle of the year, and now there's no captain there right now with Wheeler losing the C. It's just been an odd offseason. I actually want to shout out probably a pretty amazing moment for the family of Dale Howardchuk and people who knew him, the unveiling of his statue. Incredible statue. Take a look online at these pictures and videos if you haven't. So that was some good news for Winnipeg in terms of like stuff's kind of been tough lately, but I got some hope for this team. I don't know what to expect. I don't think I have them getting in the playoffs, but when it's Pierre-Luc Dubois, Kyle Connor, Scheifele, Morrissey in on the back end, Ehlers up front, and then Hellebuck. Who's to say Hellebuck doesn't have a crazy bounce back year? I mean, this guy's.
Did you mention Kyle Connor?
Yeah, I did.
Oh,
he was
did?
the first name I said. So it's the roster actually looks like it's a playoff roster. There was just so many off ice issues last year that got in the way. So if they did play real well, Bonus is another player's coach, right? He's going to get these guys at least feeling better about themselves. I just don't know with the Wheeler situation, will that affect things? I mean, he's a pro's pro. I would like to think that he shows up and wants to prove people wrong in terms of him losing the C. And I'm a little confused with this team as well, but I don't think I'm going to have them in, but I won't be surprised at all if they were to get in the playoffs, if that makes any sense besides just riding the fence like I sometimes do on this show. I'm
going with like the Dallas prediction that you guys had. I think this could either be a fire sale or tire. What do they say? Fire sale?
It's a fire sale.
I could see a fire sale going on for a complete rebuild, or they can get that offense clicking again and get Vezina style goaltending from Hellebuck. You talked about that Marco Rossi. I view Cole Perfetti as a guy who could maybe fill in that role of like some young blood coming in and adding that offense. So I'm not sure if he's going to make the team at a camp or how his training camp's going, but pretty much agreed on all fronts of what Whit said. And we've been talking about it quite a bit as far as the locker room issues. So hopefully they can resolve them, because more Canadian teams in the mix, the better. But going back to what I said about Dallas, I think fighting for a wild card, but they fall up short. And for that reason, it's because I like another team that's coming up with sustained relevance, proven track record of sustained relevance.
We'll get to that in a sec. Biz Merles, I want to ask you, does Bonus get them back to where they were before, or does this team need wholesale roster changes at some point?
And I used to be the biggest Jets guy, but they've gotten me so confused. I lost my future on them last year. I picked them to win the cup. That's how much I loved them last year. The coach leaving in the middle of the season and a captain stripped from them. I don't know. Cheveldayoff's a great GM. They got great scouts, but I'm not bullish on the Jets like I usually am.
All right. Biz, I'm gonna guess, which team did you want to talk about next? Was it your local Dogs or somebody else?
No, I was actually mentioning the Predators.
Okay, perfect. That's what I had tuned up. Last year, Nashville Predators had 97 points. They lost in the first round to the Avs. They got swept. They're 32-1 to win the cup this year. They brought in Nino Niederreiter, Ryan McDonough, and Zach Zanford. They said bye to Nick Cousins, Luke Kunin, Phil Myers, and Matt Benning. Poyle's done a fantastic job with the Preds, keeping them competitive, shrewd drafting, great trades he's made. They just need to make sure. I think Saros has a solid number 2 behind him last year. David Ritter couldn't get the job done last year, so they had to overtax Saros. Of course, he was hurt come playoff time, so they brought in Kevin Lankinen from Chicago to hopefully fix that void. It's largely the same team, though, that they're bringing back, and I would say the D's even going to be better, bringing in Ryan McDonough, who, of course, came over from Tampa, didn't want to leave. He was a salary cap casualty. Still has a lot of game left, not to mention tremendous leadership there as well. So, Biz, what's keeping the Preds from being elite?
I mean, just like going back to Poyle, I mean, like even just like a couple of the trades you mentioned where, they get rid of Weber. Everybody was surprised, but maybe at the right time on somewhat of a decline. They end up getting PK. He has unreal seasons there. Who's the other D? They obviously picked up McDonough, and just like trading guys when the end is near and replenishing their stock. So goaltending check. They got better on the back end. One thing that stands out about them, they're fucking big. And I don't think means the term to use, but just a big team that plays with physicality. And I like that. And I think that they're going to have a great year. I like that Duchesne's finally found a home. I don't know how many of you have seen the clip online of him on stage. He's getting better year over year at the country music thing too. Johansson had another great year last year, coming back from a down year the year before. So I think that they're just solid up front. I think Tanner Jeannot has proven to be a fucking beast. And I just really like them. I think they're making playoffs. No questions asked.
Yeah, I disagree with you a little bit. I think there's some questions there if they make playoffs. And Duchesne and Johansson were sick last year, but they got to do it again. You know what I mean? Like Forsberg, getting him signed was enormous, but I'm not really sold on this team all of a sudden being able to completely do what they did last year easily again. And RA, was it you mentioned Saros? He loves playing. He doesn't mind playing a ton, but he got hurt at the end of last year, correct? He didn't even get to play in the playoffs. So it's like when you rely that much on one guy, you're always one injury away from kind of hell breaking loose. And I think the team's good. The D's awesome, but I don't think at all I don't think I'm personally saying they are definitely in the playoffs one bit. That division is so good. And I think that they could get in, but I'm not like for sure of it.
Merle's Biz talked about Matt Duchesne playing the guitar. He's a pretty good strummer, man. He has a pretty good voice as well. But did guitar guys get tooled on in the room, Merle's? Like you've been in so many locker rooms. The guy who pulls out
if you whip them out in the post game parties,
those are the guys you stay away from because they wheel all the girls with the guitar playing. So one of my first roommates, Matt Hussey, always jammed on the guitar, and it is a easy wheeling move after the bar, as Biz would know.
Anybody ever play?
I used to use the guitar gimmick. I'd have a stand with a guitar in the corner just so they'd think
Guitar Hero. I'd have the Super Nintendo Guitar Hero.
That game was sick. I spent a lot of hours on that Guitar Hero. Jesus. What was the one last song? It was impossible.
Did anybody ever play anything other than the guitar? Like anybody bust out some like weird instruments ever?
Just piano. I had some guys play the piano, and I think that's the greatest thing ever because we could just be in like a hotel lobby or an airport or something, and there'd be a piano around, and they could come by and just be the biggest legends playing the songs.
I'm with that.
Gee, do you have some?
I'd love to play the piano.
Yeah, I'm gonna have my daughter play piano for sure.
Yeah, I'm all in on the piano. Merles, I actually played the trumpet growing up. And then I had to have my mom write a letter to the school. No, that's the trombone.
The trombone. Merles. Oh yeah, the trumpet's the Mets guy, the reliever.
Yep.
So why'd your mother have to write a letter to the school? Gee, you're leaving us hanging, bud.
Oh, because I was so bad, I hated it. I quit, and it was like a requirement at our elementary school that you had to be in the band, and I didn't want to be in the band, so they let me like go do my homework while everyone else was in the band because I was so bad at school. So yeah, it was pretty tough.
And then they put him in lacrosse.
You had to be in band in elementary school, 4th and 5th grade. You had to play an instrument and be in the band.
How many kids are in your grade?
Like,
there's probably like, I don't know, 100 maybe.
They were all playing an instrument?
That's every 4th and 5th grade, every single one. Yeah. Unless you're like me and can't take tests and
That
use
sounds
that to get out of it.
insane to me.
Yeah, it is. That's like
We-
making
we
every
had-
kid
yeah.
play soccer or like softball or something.
We had band or choir you had to be in.
Yep, that's
You
that's
could
how
pick
ours,
either
ours
one.
was.
Choir was an
Yeah,
easy
okay.
A.
Well, that's different. If you don't want to get a trumpet, you can go
Yeah.
sing.
Oh no, you're doing both. In Burlington, you did both. You had to do both.
Well,
I wanted to play when I was in like the 4th grade. They come around and like they would sell you like the instrument, well, to buy or rent it. I wanted to play the saxophone when I was a kid, but my mother was like, "No dice." She's like, just said no. I don't know. It wasn't like we were that poor. We
I
couldn't
think
afford a
drums-
saxophone.
Drums would be hell as a parent.
Oh,
my God.
I didn't even bother asking. I knew that wouldn't happen. But I genuinely, I mean, I would have sucked because I'm not musically inclined either. But I would have loved to have tried to play the saxophone. But no dice. I got sonked on the sax.
A,
All right,
a parent will kill you, Biz, if you
oh.
show up to a birthday party with a set of drums for the kid.
Not happening.
Yeah.
All right, Chicago Blackhawks last year.
Next.
Arizona next.
All right, good pod, guys.
That's
See you,
it. See you
see you
next week.
next. See you next Monday.
Blackhawks 68 points last year, 14th in the conference. They're 250-1 to win the Stanley Cup this year. They're bringing in a new head coach with Luke Richardson, also Max Domi, Andreas Athanasiou, Colin Blackwell, Jack Johnson, and Peter Mrazek. They said bye to Alex DeBrincat, Kirby Doc, Dylan Strome, and Dominic Kubalik. Looks like the Hawks are sucking hard for Bedard after dumping DeBrincat and Doc. But guys, you still can't count on players to tank. Only management can really be counted on for that. So as much as the roster's falling off, guys are still playing for jobs. They're still going to give effort. They got $7.5 million in cap room. They're going to have about $44 million after the season. Kane and Taves both making $10.5 million. That's $21 million that's going to come off. But the big question, where is Pat Kane going to end up? Seems to be the $1 million question. Our buddy Kevin Weeks was quoted erroneously online. Somebody said that he said Kane didn't want to go to Toronto and he only wanted to go to Edmonton, New York, or the Capitals. I texted Weeks. He says, nah, not true. That's a bunch of bullshit. So, Biz, where does Pat Kane end up?
I said Toronto all along. I don't know
What
how
about Biz? Let's change it. Sorry. When does he get dealt?
it's going to have to be at the deadline because they're going to have to squeeze him in cap wise. That's why they offered Sandine 1.4.
I think he's getting dealt before Christmas.
To who?
I've said Buffalo.
Not a chance he's going there.
No, I know. I would have liked to seen it. I'm not even gonna. I have such no clue. I mean, Edmonton would be amazing. I'm not gonna say what I think because I do not even have an opinion on where he's going. But he's going, and I'm guessing it's gonna happen sooner than later, so you can get him most of the season. And imagine the storyline when that guy goes, when he's not a Chicago Blackhawk anymore. That's how pathetic their team is this year. That the entire storyline is when the best player in your franchise's history is going to be leaving.
You look down the list of teams who are contenders, like who even has remotely enough cap room. And I guess you would have to probably have a team that sustains a big injury up front
It'll be a 3-way deal, I'm sure.
Of retaining cap space.
I don't even know if you can do that, but it sounds good to me.
Yeah. You get some space. I mean, I think a lot of people would love to see the New York Rangers get him. I would say of all the teams that maybe make sense, they probably have the most cap room. No, I know that Fox's money comes on the books this season. Grinnell, you're a capologist. Can you look up how much room they have left?
Yeah, give me a sec.
I mean, Buffalo more than any of the teams you mentioned have the room, but I don't really see him wanting to go to a non-cup contender at this point where he could just, if he wants to keep playing, sign there as a free agent next year when you know they're going to get progressively better and better and better. I could see Kane going back to Buffalo to finish his career 100%. I could see that. I just don't see it happening this year. It doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, the Rangers only have $1 million cap space heading into the season.
That's enough. I mean, how much Toronto's got nothing. They're right up at the finish there. They might even be over by a little bit.
How the hell is everyone saying he's going to go to Edmonton? They still got to shed 7, you said, didn't you? All right.
Yeah, Edmonton still has the shit. $7.5 million. Merles, you have any suspicions?
Kane's going to have his hands full, and I'm not.
I was going to say Rangers. Rangers would be my guess if he wants to leave there. He wants to be on New York. He's a big shot.
Yeah, well, that's the $1 million question in Chicago. Obviously, we'll be keeping an eye on it. See
Wait,
when it happens.
I got an interesting
What do you
team,
got, Jake?
RA, that I think could sweep in, and that's the Detroit Red Wings. And I say that because they're young. They need to add like a legitimate scorer for Dylan Larkin to play with. They have a ton of cap room. I just think it makes all the sense in the world, to be honest with you.
Wow. And Stevie Y is just going to fucking pack the biggest bowl, sit down with him and convince him to come over.
Oh,
Couldn't agree more.
the last of the bunch. Arizona Coyotes, 57 points last year, 16th in the conference. Stanley Cup this odds. I don't think I've ever seen odds this number before, Merle. It's 500 to 1 to win the Stanley Cup.
Take my money.
Never seen them that big before. Let's see. New faces, Nick Bjugstad, Zach Cassian, Patrick Nemeth, and Arizona State University. They said bye to Phil Kessel, Louis Erickson, Antoine Roussel, Jay Beagle, and Anton Strawman. And holy shit, man. And no offense to the guys on the roster, but when you look at it, the team almost makes a case for relegation like they do in soccer. You know, they're clearly not playing for the cup this year or next year. And granted, that another team that's trying to suck for Bedard. At least it'll be fun, though, in the college rink this year. I know everyone's picking on it, but it should be some crazy atmosphere. Again, odds are the highest I've ever seen. But the Yotes, again, another team building for the future. They have 18 picks in the first 3 rounds of the next 3 drafts. They're over $20 million below the cap. And this one from Elliot Friedman, Biz, raised some eyebrows. Quote, the Coyotes will factor Austin Matthews into their long-term cap plans. Leafs should be wary of the Coyotes, especially in the cap situation they're currently in. Coyotes are going to go all out in pursuing Austin Matthews.
Biz, you better not fucking say this is a good thing with your Leafs diehard fandom. Fuck off trying to play both sides.
No,
of this.
but I'm also going to agree with RA in a sense of no doubt they would offer him 20% of the cap. Dude, I bet you the owners would offer him 10% of the team if they could, if he would come back. You think I'm fucking kidding too? Can you even still do that, RA?
No.
Get a percentage of the team?
No, Alan Eagleson ruined it for everybody.
Oh, well,
I don't know if that's true. I'm just going to blame it on him.
If there was a possibility, Austin Matthews would be doing it. I think he's going to stay in Toronto 100%. Going back to the Coyotes overall, it's tank for Bedard, make home games relevant by trying to run teams out of the building and just acting like a complete goon squad. That's it. Those are your goals. I'm really hoping that Clayton Keller is able to get back to his playing ability that we saw last year after the broken femur. Great kid, loves the game. That is a very, very difficult injury to come back for. But if there's one guy who's got tons of commitment it's going to be him. Interested to see how Schmaltz performs as well, but it is going to be very difficult with the lack of NHL talent on the roster. I could probably name you less players on the roster than Witt did with the San Jose Sharks. I will be checking the game notes before I do my first broadcast though. But overall, like I said, there's one goal here: get Bedard, and that's it. That's the one goal they have this year.
We were talking about player props earlier on the Barstool Sportsbook, and I think one that's super interesting is you just mentioned him, Clayton Keller. The over-under is 24.5 goals. I'm hammering that over. I mean, someone has to score goals for them this season. I know they're not going to score many, but someone's got to score some goals.
Yeah, he'll be playing every single situation, double shifting the entire season. It was fun when they picked up Cassian too. So they have a bit of a goon squad. They got this big kid on D. I'm drawing a blank on his name. They picked up Richie last year, who was with the Leafs, who great net front presence, big body, just tons of meat up front. And I'm hoping that they do run around and at least entertain that ASU crowd. If they could lose every game on the road, but then win half of their home games, it would be a perfect season.
And let's see if they get that arena in, was it Tempe, right? Yeah, they still haven't voted on that yet. So they could be in Arizona for 3-4 years and then still not have an arena. But whatever. We'll get to that when we have to cross that bridge. Merles, I want to ask you, how hard is it to get motivated playing for a team where you basically know you're not even probably going to make the playoffs this year? Like, is it just personal motivation? How do you get fired up just individually?
Have you seen the girls in Old Town?
I've been on a lot of bad teams. Yeah, you're playing for a day off from the coach for one reason, but the main reason you're just trying to get your stats, get your contracts, and just play for your future. But I had a question for you, Biz, about Phoenix or Arizona, whatever you call us. Where are we standing on the Pink Whitney suite for the season? How's that looking?
So I got a box for 12 games this year.
Oh,
Attaboy, Biz.
Nice.
So I'm gonna be having some friends stop by. So whenever you guys are in town, you guys come by and I'll stock it with some big deal brews and a little Pink Whitney, and you guys can enjoy.
Yes.
Because it's affiliated with ASU, we couldn't do the Pink Whitney box because of the alcohol situation, but there'll still be plenty of booze in the box. So I'm excited, guys. It's going to be a great year. And listen, I loved playing at the Gila River in Glendale. When I was playing for the team, when we were making the playoffs, we had tons of fans in there. It was rowdy. As years have gone by, it's just, you know, the not much energy in the building. Some nights it just feels a little bit stale, but sell out every single game this year. And I would imagine that people are going to be bringing the noise. And the play is you go to the game to pre-drink and then you go out to Old Town after, or you can go to Mill Avenue in Tempe. So it's a win-win. I'm really happy that it's going to be a bumping atmosphere. And it would just be nice if it was a couple more fans. Like a 10,000 seat arena would have been great, but 5, I guess we'll make it do.
It'll be fun. It'll be a fun atmosphere in there. No doubt about that. All right, boys, playoff predictions. We need 3 from the Central, 3 from the Pacific, and 2 wild cards. Merles, you're on the ball. Let's go to you first.
Whoa. All right. So you want my 3 Pacific? I'm on Calgary, Vegas, Edmonton.
Calgary, Vegas, Edmonton.
Is that in your order of finishing 1, 2, 3, or
Yep.
just the 3 that are getting in automatic?
Order of finish for the regular season standings.
You said you like Edmonton more than Calgary.
Yeah, in the playoffs,
okay.
series, series, but they'll get more points. It's just when they go head to head.
Calgary, Vegas, Edmonton for the Pacific and the Central.
Central, I got Colorado, Minnesota, St. Louis.
In the wild card, 2 wild cards.
I have Nashville and Vancouver, with LA just getting out of there. But I think you guys almost talked me into LA during this podcast. But I have that as my original thing. I'm going to go with my guy, Elias Pettersson from Tim K.
Grinelli, let's do you next. 3 from the Central, 3 from the Pacific, and 2 wild cards.
I'll make it quick. In the Central, I have Colorado, Minnesota, and Nashville in that order. In the Pacific, I have the Oilers, the Flames, and Vegas in that order. For the wild card, I have Vancouver and Los Angeles.
Biz, let's go to you next. 3 Central, 3 Pacific, 2 wild cards.
I got Abs, Blues, and I'm going to pick my 3rd team is Nashville. And then I'm going to go over to the Pacific here. I got Calgary on top. I got Edmonton right below them. And then I have Vegas. And then my 2 wild card teams are going to be the Kings. And last but not least, I'm going to have to say the Minnesota Wild to get that 8th seed. That's who I got. I think I'm locked and loaded. I think most people listening right now would say that would be their 8 teams if you had to get a fan vote.
Well, we'll have to do that.
In the Central.
The what, Doug?
In the Central, I got Colorado. I got St. Louis. I got Minnesota, the same way that the Central went last year. In the Pacific, I got Edmonton. I got Calgary. And I got Vancouver. I just changed my mind on Canucks. I don't know. I don't know what the hell's going on. I think just something just clicked in me. And for my 2 wild card teams, shit, I'm going between the Predators, the Jets, and the Kings.
Wait, did you leave Vegas out?
No, he has Vegas as his 3rd team in the division.
No, I don't. Yeah. Vegas is definitely one of them. I'm sorry. I meant of the final wild card or whatever you want to call it. So Vegas, and then I got to pick Preds, Jets, or Kings. I'll go the Preds. Vegas, the number 1 seed, is the wild card or whatever.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go in the Central. I'm going to go St. Louis, Colorado, Minnesota for top 3 in the Central. I'm going to go Calgary, Edmonton, LA, top 3 in the Pacific. And then I have Nashville and Winnipeg as the 2 wild cards. So those are our selections.
So you got no Vegas in the you say no Vegas?
No, I do not have Vegas.
Wow. Vegas. You're no Vegas.
Yeah.
Well, boys, I know it was a long one, and it might have dragged out a little bit at the end there, but that was a fun episode. It was great having Merles on.
I've had good luck on this show, giving my play of the week early.
Yep.
So I got to keep the streak going. I need the video clip to put on my Twitter and in my blogs. Thursday night in Sweden, I have to go against my Timra team. It's Skellefteå 3-way, -130, Barstool Sportsbook. Skellefteå. I don't know how to say it exactly. They are a complete wagon. They're number one in the league. Hard building to play in. Skellefteå. Book it, Whit.
Right. Might want to spell that for the people at home, but I'm sure
It's
we'll be
crazy
putting out
spelling
plenty.
too. SK something.
Hey, wait, I'll make you a promise. If Vancouver gets one of the top 3 seeds in that division, I'll get a Costanza painting with Boudreaux, and I'll have barbecue sauce on his lips.
Ooh.
And I'll put it in my new house that I'm getting a renovation on. I'll get it fucking hand painted by some professional here, and I'll hang it above my bed for 6 months, for fuck's sakes. All right. That's if they win top 3 in that division. They might get a wild card, but you having them in the top 3.
I have them beating Vegas and LA. I don't know what's going on in my mind.
All right, everyone. Hope you enjoyed our preview, our Western Conference preview, the interview with Brad Treliving. We're getting geared up. We got Pittsburgh next week. We got Big Deal Brewing. We have 6 states we're announcing, right? Our first 6 states in America. Fill the folks in.
Starting Tuesday, and I think Biz would probably be better to take this over here, but starting Tuesday, we will be releasing the original 6, the 6 first states that Big Deal Brewing will be released in.
I am so excited. Like that the can alone, like just looking at it, like you were at this FIFCO or what's the thing you were at, G? What's the name of it?
NACS trade show convention.
How many people stopped by and just stared at the can in their hands, just saying, this is marvelous. This is a piece of art.
I mean, it was pretty cool because so many of these convenience store guys, like they go off taste, but they go off like what's going to catch someone's eye in the store. And so many guys would walk by us and be like, wow, that's a really sharp can you have there. And it is. It's got that like vintage feel to it as well. I think we did an amazing job in the cans and the taste as well.
Not to put you on the spot.
Yeah, the man behind this can actually was jerking off on the highway, driving down the west
side of the
coast
highway.
United
I pulled
States.
over. I pulled over, you asshole. I wasn't tugging it on the ride. I lied. I was in cruise control.
Oh, pick 6 by the 49ers. Booyah, Witzka, San Fran. Big money.
Really?
Gee, before we send it off, I'd like you to read what's on the back of the can, though.
Yes. So it's the Spittin Chiclets crew is excited to announce Big Deal Brewing. Its first and signature offering, the original, is a refreshing golden ale inspired by retired hockey player Paul Bissonnette's ideal beverage. Biz and the boys know that hockey fans have been waiting for a new splash in the beer game for a long time, and what better way to give them what they want than partner with Labatt USA, the makers of the best-selling Canadian beer, on a series of exciting new premium recipes. No BS, just refreshing, high-quality, drinkable beers, starting with the original. Not a big deal?
Read.
No, this is a big deal.
Ooh.
Hey, what a
Really,
read
very
by you.
Very impressive. You can read out loud that well. Good job.
I was actually, if you look at my hand, I was shaking. I was so nervous reading that
you're
for
in
some reason.
Vegas.
Yeah, that's actually what it is.
Those are the drugs.
right.
But guys, we're excited for everybody to try it. And yeah, it's been quite the ride, a year in the making. We appreciate everybody at Labatt and being very patient with us trying to perfect this. And we did. And yeah, I can't wait for you all to try it.
And we'll be in Pittsburgh next week. Once again, we have the live show. We're going to the home opener. We have a watch party, and hopefully we're going to the Steelers Buccaneers at the artist formerly known as Heinz Field on Sunday. But
we got another episode before that trip, correct?
right, but just let them know next week we'll be out there. But yeah, we got another one.
I can't wait. I
Can't wait to see you, Pittsburgh.
Merles, thanks for joining us so late.
Yep,
Love
thanks
you
for having
guys.
me.
And boys, season previews, conference previews. We back, baby.
We back.
Peace.
Hockey's back. Have a good week, everybody.